I just want to talk about the Saints real quick. Justin Reed, 3 years, 31. Brandon Cooks, 2 years, 13. Chase Young, 3 years, 51. Juwan Johnson, 3 years, 30. Are they money laundering? How do they do this?
Dude.
I mean, they didn't even release anybody. And they traded for Devon Godshot. These dudes, every year, it's like, oh, man, this team has to just rebuild, get rid of all these players because they have no money. And then every year, they make just some of the craziest signings.
The ball is on the 25, and it is 1st and 10. Welcome into the show, ladies and gentlemen. We are running through a full first-round mock draft today. I'm your host, Cade, along with my other host, MetroSports. Metro, how are you doing today?
Today is a very special day. First ever mock draft on the First and 10 channel. I am absolutely pumped for this specific video / podcast. I'll be taking the evens, and Cade will be doing the odds. So if we want to just hop right into it, let's get into this.
That sounds absolutely wonderful, Metro. Let's get this draft started. And I got the odds today. And lucky for me, my pick is not that difficult. I'm going to take a quarterback that we all pretty much know is going unanimously number 1 overall in Cam Ward. What's not to love about this quarterback? Yes, I understand he's no Jaden Daniels or no Caleb Williams, but Cam Ward brings the pack and the punch that you want in your quarterback prospect. He's got a pretty good arm, pretty good mobility-wise, and he is a playmaker at heart. When it's 3rd and 10, 4th and 10, and the game is on the line, Cam Ward, more times than not, makes it happen. That is the kind of quarterback I want in my quarterback room, especially as a brand-new head coach. Metro, what do you think about this before I punch it in? You got any huge objections before I punch this through?
I don't have any objections. I will say, in terms of the grand scheme of the draft, if I had a big board, I wouldn't have Cam Ward number 1. I would say that's not a hot take. That's a pretty popular take. I like Cam Ward a lot. I think he's got good size. Like PFF says, his arm talent is fantastic. He's sort of those player that you want to get in today's game where he's just an absolute baller. He's not going to sit back and, just take the check down on 3rd and 15. This dude's going to chuck it deep. This dude is an absolute ball player. I think for Tennessee, it sucks that Will Levis really didn't work out. It's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do. So if I am the Tennessee Titans, this pick comes down to Abdul Carter or Cam Ward. Both are dire needs, but I don't think you pass on the potential generational quarterback in Cam Ward. So I don't hate this pick one bit. It would be exactly what I would probably do as well.
Awesome. And if you look at this, look at the percentiles, man. Everybody and their mother thinks he's going to go 1 overall. It has really steadied out over the past, month. It's pretty much a lock, and if it's not, we're all going to be pretty shooken up. I'm going to take him here and throw it to you at number 2 for the Browns, who are going to be on the clock.
This is really where I think the draft begins, and this is a Browns team that they are in a really bad spot, both financially, both personnel and player-wise. I mean, this team has so many needs: quarterback, running back, like people says, receiver. Their offensive line needs a lot of help. Their secondary could use some help. They just lost Dalvin Tomlinson, so that could use some help. This is a really poor roster, and it kind of is interesting because this was a team that just 2-3 years ago we all thought was a quarterback away, and then they make the Deshaun Watson trade, and it clearly didn't work out. I mean, they have to hit on multiple positions with one pick, and if you want to do that, they are extremely lucky that somebody like Travis Hunter is on the board here. The only thing that's gives me some pause about taking Hunter is you signed Myles Garrett to a long-term deal, and I'm assuming in those conversations they were going to tell him hey man, we're going to try to compete right now, and you're not competing with Kenny Pickett as your starting quarterback or Deshaun Watson if he somehow comes back next year.
Totally.
So I mean, Shedeur Sanders is on the board, but again, I just look at this roster. This is a team that so desperately badly just needs to add as much talent as possible. I don't necessarily think cornerback is the biggest positional need, but I am going to go ahead and just take Travis Hunter because he just fills multiple needs. He gives you another body in the secondary who I think can be a true cornerback one. Outside of Jerry Jeudy, this receiving core isn't that good. So if you take Travis Hunter, I do think he would play both sides at a decent level on both sides, and I think he'd be great on both sides. Again, this is a Browns team that just needs talent. I think maybe in the second round, that's where they look to get a quarterback, but I don't know if Dart or Milroe or any of those guys are really worth it. So it's a tough spot for the Browns to be in. Unfortunately, it's not a great quarterback class. So I'm going to take Travis Hunter, but Kay, what do you think?
Man, like you said, so many positions of need for this team. But, I mean, you just don't think about it too hard. And this just makes sense for the Browns. They hit both spots in wide receiver and cornerback. He can't start full-time at both. That's physically impossible. I mean, for anybody. You could be God himself. You're not starting both ways in the NFL. You need to be in one practice room studying film for that position. You can hop into some packages for the wide receiver position, but you can't do everything at the same time. Nonetheless, Travis Hunter, generational talent and just such a great player. He can do it both ways, and the more you think about it, and even just for the city of Cleveland, it injects a little bit of hope. Yes, it's not a quarterback that they really want, but Travis Hunter is just about as close as you get to injecting some hope into a franchise. So I'm all for it, Metro. If you're ready, I'm going to punch this through.
Yeah, I do want to say one last thing. I don't think they've had the worst free agency so far. They brought in Malik Collins, who I guess hypothetically is going to be your Dalvin Tomlinson guy. Like, he's a decent pass rusher. Joy Tryon-Shoyinka, solid edge rusher, can play opposite of Myles Garrett. Still think you want to find another guy there, but you traded for Kenny Pickett. Then you also bring in Tevin Jenkins, who is a younger, really solid guard who just has injury problems, but it's only on a one-year deal. So you're going to have to pay him probably next year if he does play good. So I don't think it's been the worst for agency so far. Obviously, the big thing they did was bring back Myles Garrett, but they didn't address running back. Yeah, Nick Chubb's still a free agent. They didn't address receiver. You didn't really address corner. So it's not a bad free agency by no means. It could have been a lot worse, but it definitely wasn't the game changer. So, yeah, let's punch in Travis Hunter here for the good old Cleveland Browns.
Love to see it. Number 3, the Giants are on the clock, and we have quarterback, tackle, interior D-line, and cornerback. Now, the Giants are in a particularly weird spot because, obviously, elephant in the room, they need a quarterback. It's been the same way for about, 2 years now, Metro?
It's been like this ever since Eli Manning started going downhill, basically.
Yes, that's correct. So I'm not going to take a quarterback here, spoiler. But when you look at this team and where they struggled last year, they were 31st in the entire league in scoring offense. Brian Daboll knows if he doesn't score this year, he's getting fired. And so does Joe Shane. Is that correct? Is that how you say his name?
Yes, I
cool,
believe so.
Thank you. Just want to make sure I'm saying names right. Those two are canned if they don't score points this year. Defense is a longer-term thing when you try to turn it around. Really, on offense, you shore up the O-line. Good things can happen, even with Jameis Winston behind that O-line. Now, yes, it is far-fetched. We could take a quarterback here. I think that's way more risky than taking a player, in my eyes. I'm scrolling all the way down, so some people are not going to like this. But in my heart, Armand Membu is a fantastic tackle prospect. Yes, you can play him at right tackle, and he would fit right into that O-line. This guy, had a great combine, and his tape speaks for itself. Let me pull the stats up for you guys. 0 sacks, and 0 hits in 2024. He played nearly perfect, and he wasn't playing bums. He's in the SEC. I love his tape. I love him as a tackle, and he's got great length. I forget what his exact measurements were at the combine, but this guy is everything you want in your right tackle, and I'm a huge fan, Metro. And with this, the reason I like this pick, you shore up that O-line. It's not going to be like top 5 in the league, right? But it gives your quarterback a fighting chance. You want to not get fired? You got to score some points. The best path to that, to make the biggest impact in this position, is take a certified stud of a right tackle. I know it's a little bit rich at 3, and you could trade back, but I think he goes to the Patriots potentially at 4 even, and I don't think they want to take that risk. I would lock in Membu here at 3. That's just my pick, and a little bit biased, but I'm trying to find the path for success for this Giants team because, let me tell you, it's kind of hard to do so. So I'm trying to make a miracle happen, Metro. What do you think about this pick?
So if I was on the board, I would take the quarterback in Shedeur Sanders if this is my pick. I think this pick does come down to a couple names. Obviously, Abdul Carter still on the board here. Brian Burns is there. You still have Kayvon Thibodeau, but you lose out on Ojulari, so maybe you want to consider Abdul Carter as well. And then I think Armand Membu is probably the next guy because I do think he sticks more out at tackle. And if we keep it real here, the offensive line for the Giants really is not that good. No. Andrew Thomas, left tackle, when healthy, is a superstar, like a really good player. But then your interior, John Runyon, John Michael Schmitz, and Greg Van Roten. Yes, you have Jermaine Illuminor, who I guess has some level of flexibility, but the interior of the offensive line is still a weakness. And then your right tackle, again, you do have Jermaine Illuminor, who can play that tackle spot, but the other guy's Evan Neal, who is one of the bigger draft busts in NFL history. So again, if this was my pick, I would take Shador Sanders. But I mean, man, you put him behind that offensive line, he might struggle. And I mean, I think they've had a pretty nice offseason so far. I mean, Javon Holland, Paulson Adebo, and Chauncey Golston too are all really nice additions. So
Totally.
I mean, I think maybe Abdul Carter would also, just because of the talents on the board, but I guess with Chauncey Golston being there too, maybe you don't necessarily need that so much. I would still go quarterback, but I have no argument against taking Armand Membu. Like if draft night came and Brian Dable was sitting there and didn't want to take Shador Sanders, felt confident in Jameis Winston, or maybe gets an Aaron Rodgers on this team, maybe you take an Armand Membu. I mean, it would be an incredibly risky pick for him to take because, again, his job's on the line.
It is.
Something that I've talked about on my personal channel is when we think about the job of Brian Dable, a lot of times we think about this from like an NFL perspective, but this is also a real life dude who's going to be losing a lot of money.
Yeah.
So this guy is like genuinely fighting for his life, not in a literal standpoint, because the difference between a coordinator or an assistant coach and a head coach is millions and millions of dollars.
That's right.
So this is his. I mean, I would be surprised if they have another down year and he doesn't get fired. I do think he's a great coach, but I mean, it's been multiple years now of lackluster success. So, me personally, I'm taking Shador Sanders, but again, it's your pick, so I have no issues with the Armand Membu pick. I actually think that kind of changes it up for the first time in a while for the Giants because typically it's, the same pick over and over again. So I like the pick. It's interesting.
Totally. And I love your insight. Because I thought about this for a long time, right? Like, I'm on the same page as you. Their backs are against the wall, and you got to put it in their perspective because if they, like you said, they lose millions of dollars. So, yes, I agree. I think Membu's an awesome player, but I think the pick, let's be honest, it's a little bit short-sighted. If Abdul Carter's on the board, if you are a safe franchise and if you have a job for 3 years, let's say you're in a contract, you're taking Abdul Carter right here. No matter who you have, Brian Burns at edge, I'm taking the best player on the board. That's not the scenario we're in. I think
100%.
This is kind of my kicker right here. Shador Sanders, I love it, not love strong. I like him a lot as a quarterback. The biggest kicker for me, he had one of the biggest and longest times to throw out of the entire college football landscape last year. So that's what really alarms me. And if Thomas goes down, it's just not going to work. Like, it is almost guaranteed. And how many times does Thomas get injured versus doesn't get injured? So if I'm thinking my job on the line, I need to shore something up for whoever's back there. It could be Shador Sanders, Jalen Milroe, or you, Metro. I don't think anyone's throwing the ball accurately or on time if they're getting sacked every single play. So with that play alone, I am going to punch this through because this is my selfish pick at number 3. If you want to keep your job, I think the best path of success for that is going to be Armand Membu.
Yeah, I could just imagine Shador Sanders behind that offensive line, especially if Thomas does get injured. I mean, it would be a nightmare scenario for them.
It's a poor guy.
So,
it's over.
Yeah, you might not want to put me back there at quarterback. I'm throwing 10 pick sixes in one game. I am no quarterback.
You'd be like Daniel Jones, baby. I'm kidding. These guys are much better athletes than we are, but yes.
Hey, I was pretty good in high school. Good old.
Did you play Q in high school?
No, no. I played basically every single position in high school. Legitimately, every single non-skill position. I played tackle. Obviously, I was, it was early in my younger years when I was a little bit bigger. So I played tackle, I played guard, I played center, I played tight end. Defensively, I played edge, outside linebacker, middle linebacker, scout team, defensive tackle. Your boy was in there putting work in. I was getting cooked, bro.
Bro, you should have gone to the league. You got I think you just named off 10 positions. That was ridiculous. I'm impressed.
Well, some of those were very short. I was only there for 5 days, but I still was there.
You still did it. That's right. You were there.
I really wanted to play tight end. That was the position I wanted to play, but and I had good hands, but I wasn't the inline blocker after my junior year. So then I moved to linebacker, and long story, but I got a lot of stories about getting absolutely mollywopped out there. I was pretty good, but there was a couple times where I'm out there, outside linebacker, 6'5", 300-pound offensive tackle, committed to Texas A&M, running me down full speed, just puts me into the sideline, throws me into the dirt, gets roasted in film day. Yeah, it's rough times.
No, okay, whenever you're in that position, it's bad in real life, right? It's worse when you get to the film room. Like you just got your ass kicked, but you're in the back of your head. You're like, oh God, I don't want to. Coach is gonna flame me tomorrow. That's what you're thinking about immediately after the play. Am I wrong?
No, you're 1,000% right. On the field, like the coach isn't seeing it. He might give you like good effort, or like something like that. The second you get into film room, he's gonna replay it 10 times. I got one of those times that a big offensive tackle put me in the dirt. This coach, it was like the 5th play of the game. Coach sees the film, and he's in front of the entire team, right? And he's replaying me getting cracked 15 times in front of everyone. That whole room was cracking on me, dude. It was the worst, and. Yeah.
You know it's bad when they take the remote and just set it on the loop and then just set the remote down and then just start pointing at the screen. You're like, oh, hell. Like, yes. I don't want to talk to anyone for a week. I'm in a horrible mood.
It's the worst. Our team was not very good. Or my senior year, we went 3-7. But my junior year, we were pretty good. And we got some I got a lot of playing time that year. Senior year, we got cooked. I mean, we were our starting quarterback broke his arm and ended up playing tight end. Like we were in the absolute gutters. We had a freshman quarterback. True story. This freshman quarterback came in there, 4 years on varsity. Dude had 2 wins his entire career. That
poor guy. That's just
he was
brutal,
terrible.
man.
He ended up getting kicked off the team for smoking the good stuff.
Really? What an absolute journey. It's like the Johnny Manziel journey in the NFL.
Well, he was no Johnny Manziel. That's one thing for sure. He wishes he was Johnny Manziel. I give him credit, though. That poor kid was he got 4 offensive coordinators, but
man in the arena. He was trying his best.
Yeah, I think now we're on to 4. This pick becomes so much easier with Armand Membu now because I'm taking Abdul Carter.
Let's go.
As much as they need offensive line help, like if you took Shador or Abdul Carter at 3, I probably would have taken Armand Membu.
Yeah.
But now I'm in a position now where it's like I have to take Abdul Carter. I'm going to take Abdul Carter, even though they need offensive line help and receiving help desperately bad. If a guy like Abdul Carter is available on the pick here, I mean, isn't there some injury concern with him? I don't know how big this is going to hurt his stock. I've heard that it should be something he can recover from, but I don't know. Have you heard anything about that?
I've heard it too, but like, it's got to be bad for you not to take Abdul Carter. Like, let's be real here. This is a generational guy.
Yeah, even if Abdul Carter has to miss like 5 or 6 games next year, like you just still take him. And this is a Patriots team that has a new head coach, so they have time. It's not like they need to win now. They can win 2 to 3 years from now. It just makes so much sense for Abdul Carter to be a Patriot, even though that offensive line is going to be bad for another year because they've only really done Morgan Moses. I guess there's still a couple offensive linemen out there, but that offense should still be really bad, and Drake May's going to have a hard time out there. But they will have more picks in the draft. Abdul Carter is maybe the best player in this year's draft class. I mean, I'd have Travis Hunter in front of him, but I would say there's a lot of people who would have Abdul Carter. So for Patriots fans, I don't think they would complain about that one. In fact, I think they would be wanting Abdul Carter. But for any Patriots fans who may have wanted somebody like Armand Membu, who's no longer here, or Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks to give help to your young quarterback, look, man, Abdul Carter is just better. It's just
that's
simple.
what it is. That's right.
So,
it's the best player available.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic player. By the way, go back to the logo. I never knew the logo for Penn State. Like, as we were talking, I just noticed it. There's like that little swoosh on the left side of the circle.
Yeah.
I never noticed that before.
I never did either, actually. I thought it was just a straight circle.
I thought so, too. Sometimes you see these logos and you look a little bit closer, you're like, oh, that's what that was.
This is embarrassing. That I never realized the Toyota logo was a T and a Y for like, I think.
Oh, really?
It was pathetic, bro. I shouldn't have said that live, but stuff like that, you're just like, oh, that hurts. That hurts real
you don't
bad.
really think about it. You just kind of just see it and you're like, oh, that's Toyota. And then you like look deeper, you're like, oh, that's a dude holding a pizza for Pizza Hut. And you're like, oh.
You just got no idea. Yeah, that works.
All right. Abdul Carter to the Patriots is my pick here. Do you have any?
Shador Sanders 4? Is that what you said?
Is Drake May dead?
All right, cool. We're punching it up to Carter. All right, the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock at 5, and my favorite player, not the best player, has fallen to us at 5, and he is a desperate need. So you do have the argument, right, for Tedros McMillan. People love him. They love his game. I see way more safety in a player like Mason Graham. Because, guys, let's be real here. These GMs and these coaches, they're not trying to be right. They're trying to make sure they're not wrong. Let me rephrase this. If you have a stable environment, you're trying to be right and get the best ceiling possible most of the time. If you are bad, like most teams in the bottom 10, you're trying not to be wrong. Because if you're wrong, you could be done for your entire career. You may not get another opportunity. So with that being said, Mason Graham, you talk about a surefire hit, strong run defense, can even do a little bit in the pass rush game. He is such a solid football player. Let's just look at some of these stats. Run defense grade of 92.6. True pass rush grade, he's got a percentage of 13.8, which is really good for a D tackle. We thought he couldn't do a ton of in the rushing game, but he actually can do a lot. I love his game. I love where he goes here, and it's just a great value at 5 overall. Yes, he's got shorter arms. That's his only knock. I think I mentioned to use Metro in our last mock draft, but if he had, like, literally 1 inch longer arms, he would be arguably a top 3 pick. And that sounds really dumb because we're pulling from straws at this point. But he's just such an awesome football player, and he's going to keep doing the same thing in the NFL, and it's a position of need. I wouldn't overthink this, and I would just take Mason Graham.
Yeah, so I'm looking at their free agency, and damn near, I mean, out of all the free agents they've picked up, Patrick McCarry, Diami Brown, some tackle depth, some tight end depth, they've only picked up 2 defensive players. And that was Jordan Lewis, who I thought that was – I love Jordan Lewis. It doesn't really make a lot of sense for the Jaguars because it felt like they already had their nickel position figured out.
I know, right?
So that's going to be interesting to see how they figure that one out. And then they brought in Eric Murray, who I think is a fine safety, who I guess will start for them. But they have really not addressed the defense at all. And this was not a very good defense last year. So if by adding Mason Graham, you're putting somebody in either Eric Armstead's spot or playing alongside him. Mason Graham's a fantastic player. Like, there's a lot of prospect fatigue with him. Talking about his arm length, his stature, his size. Like, yes, this dude maybe is smaller than what you would want him to be. But this dude is one of the toughest, grittiest, hardest working dudes out there. Strong. He is just physical as hell. And his first step and his violent punch, at times, it's legitimately elite. And it would put him in, if he can maximize his potential at the NFL and if he is able to translate his game, I mean, you put him next to Josh Hines Allen, I guess Trevon Walker, if he continues his development, like, that defensive line becomes just nasty.
That's right.
And again, this is kind of what we talked about throughout the video already. This is a new coaching staff. They have time. They're going to have 3-4 years to get the ship right. They already have some foundational pieces on the offensive end. I still think they need some work there. They could really use a running back. I think Ashton Genty's in play here, funny enough. But yeah, I'm taking Mason Graham. I love McMillan next to Brian Thomas, great. I love Genty. I love taking a tackle But I think the pick has become a lot more obvious, especially with Will Johnson's stock falling. So, for what it is, I would also take Mason Graham here, and I just wouldn't overthink it. As much as it's become a repetitive pick, it's the right pick to make.
That's right. It is repetitive, and Jags fans are probably sick of it. But you'll be very thankful here in a year. Probably week 1, you'll be like, oh, yeah, Mason Graham's a pretty good football player. So I'm punching him through here. And I'm going to throw it back to you at number 6.
I get the Las Vegas Raiders. I really do like the Raiders roster. I recently did a video on them and kind of went through their roster, did a breakdown on different things. And this team has some really good pieces, but, man, their flaws are really flawed. I mean, they're really bad. I think that PFF has it kind of spot on there. Running back, receiver, cornerback 1, interior defensive line depth. Those are all things they could use. They could also maybe use a younger linebacker because they brought in Landon Roberts, who I think is a good player, but a little bit more youth there. So I picked 6. This is a really interesting spot. I really do wish that Will Johnson had a really good 2024 season and didn't have those injuries. Because if he didn't, I think this would be the obvious pick here. And they still could take Will Johnson, but his 2024 tape was just inconsistent. He made a great play, pick 6, and then he gave up a 30-yard pass here or there. Elite size. We all understand how good Will Johnson is. I think he'd be a great player for this Raiders team, but the injury concerns are fairly legitimate at this point because I do believe now he's dealing with a hamstring injury. And ever since the season ends, it just feels like his stock is dropping. So, unfortunately, no Will Johnson here, which is going to bring me to really 2 players, and they're both offensive. And, of course, it's going to be Tetsuo McMillan and Ashton Genty. You bring in Raheem Mostert to be, hypothetically, your RB2. You still have Sincere McCormick, Zamir White. I just don't think they compare to Genty. I don't think it's a hot take. And then when I look at all of the prospects on the board, I would say that at this stage, there aren't very many quote-unquote blue chip prospects, like those upper echelon guys who 1,000% should, if they maximize their potential and actually get the right coaching, will be superstars in the league. Like, I love Tetairoa McMillan. I am in the Tetairoa McMillan fan club. But, I mean, he does have a floor that's a lot lower than Ashton Jeanty. And even though this is a Raiders team that brings in a new quarterback in Geno Smith, who DK Metcalf, JSN, Tyler Lockett, now he's throwing the ball to Trey Tucker, Kyle Phillips, and Jacoby Myers. By the way, if you look at the backups for the Raiders, I don't even know who these dudes are. Ramel Keaton, Alex Batchman, Christian Wilkerson, I know him. Tyleek McAllister, like, dude, who are these guys? I mean, no disrespect to you guys. You guys are 10 times the
They're
athlete.
in the league.
They're in the league. Shout out to you guys. Never heard of you, though. So as much as I would love to take Tetairoa McMillan, and he would be a good player for this team, I'm going to just take Ashton Jeanty. I know it's kind of like Mason Graham. It's become the repetitive pick. It seems like every mock draft has done this recently. Just makes a lot of sense. They have a really solid offensive line. You bring in a quarterback. I mean, what's the best way to help your young, or I guess not young, but help your new quarterback out? Give him a nice run game. So would you do Ashton Jeanty, or would you do something else like Ted McMillan?
Dude, if Ashton Jeanty's going to go early, I think he does go to the Raiders. The only counter-argument to play devil's advocate, and like I'm not saying I agree with this, it's just if you're going to. Ashton Jeanty, when you draft a running back in the first round, you have to assume what the value they have nowadays. It's going to last about 3 years, right? 4 years. I think it'll last much longer for Ashton Jeanty. He does have a lot of carries on him. Let's be real. It's something definitely concerning. Maybe his only concern out of his entire profile. So that would be the only counter-argument for taking him to a team like the Raiders, who have a little bit more of a way to go than most teams. But Ashton Jeanty, man, like you said, you talk about landing on a pick and feeling good about it. Nobody better to walk out of the draft of than with Ashton Jeanty. Kick-ass running back. He's quick, he's strong, he's fast, and he just, dude, he's like rubber. People just bounce off him. Look, first after contact. First, holy hell, he has 152 missed tackles force. Guys, for reference, I was looking at running backs. 70 is an insane number. 152. All right, that just settles it, Metro. I'm so game to take him. It's your pick, but if you want me to punch it in, I gladly will.
Every snap he takes. I mean, even like a 3-yard run for him, a lot of the times it's unbelievably impressive that he gets 3 yards. Like, he is actually like, I mean, you compare him to like the Saquons, the Ohio State Ezekiel Elliott's of the world. Like, I think Jeanty very much is in the conversation to be a better prospect than those guys, which I wouldn't say that I was necessarily an analyzer of football back then, so maybe I could be wrong, but as a pure prospect, he is just fantastic. I do agree with your point, though, about how the lifespan of a running back is shorter. Like, he's not going to be, like, 10 years down the line, I don't think Jeanty's going to be a top 10 running back, right?
No,
and there's a chance that
Tetairoa
McMillan, and there's a chance that Ted McMillan could still be good 10 years from now.
Yeah.
But here's the truth. I mean, when we think about the future of teams, oftentimes we think 5-6 years down the line. A lot of times these GMs and coaches, they're thinking 1-2 years in advance. They're not thinking 4 or 5 years. So, I mean, I think you have a good offensive line. I also do think by bringing in Raheem Mostert, you can limit Jeanty's carries to 18, 22 a game. Obviously, if it's 4th and 1 and you got to get a touchdown, you're giving the ball to Jeanty over and over and over again. But yeah, I'm going to take Ashton Jeanty here. I know that you could hypothetically take McMillan and then second round go with a running back, which I have considered here. But I just think Jeanty's a better player than McMillan, as much as I love McMillan. So, yeah, I'm going to take Ashton Jeanty here. Again, if you take McMillan, I don't disagree with you. If you take Will Campbell, I don't disagree with you. But, yeah, we're taking Ashton Jeanty, which gives you the New York Jets, who have had a really, really interesting offseason so far.
Dude, the Jets at 7. This is one of the weirdest spots on the draft board because I'm also going to spoil it right here. I'm not going to take a quarterback because that's just kind of throwing someone into the fire, and I don't want to do that to some poor soul. And wide receivers tempting, but here's the situation, right? Let's set the stage. Like you mentioned, with new coaching staffs, they typically lean to the trenches when they draft because they have time to build these teams up. If you have time in the NFL, which is a rare commodity, usually you build it correctly and go through the trenches. Now, Aaron Glenn, head coach, used to be the D coordinator of the Detroit Lions. I know him very well. He, like you said, obviously they have Sauce Gardner. It feels like he'd want to take a defensive player right here. This is like, I'm just going to talk to you, Metro. The truth is, that T right there, I want to take a tackle. because I know it's going to hit. I'm very confident in these tackle prospects, higher than most. Not quite Will Campbell. I think he's got shorter arms than most realize. But I even like Josh Simmons and Kelvin Banks a lot more than most do. 22 and 21. I don't see that happening on draft night. Tackle is a rare commodity in the NFL, and I think there's even a chance one of them goes at 7 in my eyes. Now, truth be told, they could trade back from here, but we're not doing trades today. So this is where it makes it tough. I'm going to phone a friend. Ooh. Metro, I want to lean tackle here and go in like, if you go tackle here, right, Kelvin Banks Jr., dope prospect. I think Josh Simmons has a little bit more upside, personally, just because he's got a little more movement and flexibility. He's injured, which doesn't help, but if anybody has the time to nurse an injured prospect, it's going to be the Jets. So if I go tackle, I'm probably going to go Josh Simmons just because of the upside, because that's the kind of pick you have to make at 7. And then if not, I'd probably lean Tet just because he's a rare, freaky athlete you may not never get again at wide receiver. Yes, you got your stud in Garrett Wilson, but it would be sweet to pair those two.
Man, I'm glad I don't have this pick because
it's a weird pick, bro.
Pick, but Justin Fields comes in, is probably going to be their starter. If not, it'd be Tyrod Taylor.
Yep.
Right now, your right tackle would be Okorafor Chukwuma, I believe is how you say his first name, or something like that.
Actually,
who didn't have a very good year with, I want to say it was the Patriots he was on prior to this. So I don't think you want him to be your starting tackle next year. But then you look at the receiver 2, and it's Alan Lazard, who I don't think you want him to be your wide receiver 2. And then you look at defensive tackle. I guess right now Mason Graham's not there, but right now you have Derek Nowdy as your second 2, or second defensive tackle, sorry. And then Byron Cowart's also there. A couple other names. Don't feel confident about that one. Mm-hmm. And then you look at their secondary, and they bring in Brandon Stevens to a pretty sizable contract, but I don't really feel terribly confident about him either. So
Stevens plays nickel, right?
He can. I suppose he's probably going to play outside corner for them because they have Michael Carter and Isaiah Oliver too. So this is, not to mention Quantez Stiggers is there last year or this year too. So maybe you stay away from cornerback. I mean, Will Johnson's available, but man, for me it's up to 2 players, maybe 3. Mm-hmm. McMillan, no 4. Sorry. I'm increasing every time I think.
Go ahead. No.
Because their tight ends suck too. Their tight end, Jeremy Ruckert, Stone Smart, Zach Kuntz, and Neil Johnson. That ain't good.
No,
so I'm looking at Tyler Warren, Tetsuo McMillan, Will Campbell, and Kelvin Banks. I would probably stay away from Josh Simmons because I think he's a bit riskier right now than some of the other guys. But
this is true.
Oh man, it's tough because Kelvin played left tackle at Texas. I think he can play right tackle perfectly fine, and I do think he's a fantastic player. Will Campbell, I still I have a hard time seeing him play tackle. I just think he's a guard, but I think he can play tackle. But they don't really need guards, so I think that maybe eliminates Will Campbell a little bit here. Again, it's your pick. So for me, by process of elimination, I would go Banks, Warren, McMillan. Any one of those 3 makes a lot of sense, and then you just hope and pray that somebody falls to you in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Totally. So what we've learned, Jets fans, this is a tradable spot if this happens exactly to how we say, because you can get back and get value. And when you're building a new team under a new head coach, they're definitely going to value that. You can go back about 6 picks and still get the guy you want.
I'll tell you right now, there's a handful of teams that I think would trade up here. The Cowboys trade up for Ted McMillan.
Totally.
The Niners would trade up for Will Campbell. The Chicago Bears can trade up for Will Campbell. The Colts could trade up to take an offensive tackle like Will Campbell. Like, there's a lot of teams that would be willing to trade up here. So if there is a tradable spot, I think the Jets should definitely be interested in it, because even if they trade back to 14 where the Colts are at, I think you can still take Calvin Banks there, or maybe even take somebody like Mike Green to add to what you already have in your defensive line. So, or Will Johnson if you would want to. So I would say it's a trade down spot, but again,
no trades
here. So have fun.
With that being said, I'm going Kelvin Banks or Josh Simmons.
Right.
And today, just because you got the hook him in the background, we're going Kelvin. Feel really good about this pick. He's a very safe prospect to tackle and will play a great right tackle in the NFL. And yeah, I'm kind of in a corner here, and it sounds weird to pick at 7 and be in a corner, but in a good corner, like you got so many good opportunities and players you could pick. But Kelvin Banks, I know, is going to work out and help this team immediately. And that's what we're going to do right here for this franchise.
All right, that puts me up at pick 8, and the board has been really nice here for the Panthers. If we look at what they've done in free agency, they've had a nice free agency. They've gotten, give me 2 seconds. They bring in Tershawn Horton. Little overpay in my opinion. $54 million over 3 years feels like a lot, but you need the help as badly as you can get, and he's a good disruptor up the middle. Trevon Moehrig, who I think is a fantastic safety, they add him. Patrick Jones to play the edge to give you some help there. Bobby Brown III, another guy in the defensive interior to just add more depth. Christian Roseboom, a linebacker, nice solid pickup. And then Rico Dowell. I mean, they really had a solid offseason. Then they also extended J.C. Horn to kind of get ahead of that contract. So they've done a really nice job of fixing up a lot of their core issues, which was the defense. It's a shame that Abdul Carter's stock is through the moon right now, or else I would love to take an edge. And the other unfortunate part is you look at the other edges right now, and you have Mike Green, who a couple weeks ago, I think he got accused of something really serious.
I heard about that, yeah.
So I don't know if you want that, especially on a team that's little bit, on the younger side, trying to play for the future. Hopefully that gets settled, because if it does, I think he would be considered here. But I'm not going to consider him at this point. James Pierce Jr., his stock is also falling. I don't think I would take him here either. Then there's Micah Williams, who it feels like analysts are higher on him than like other creators. Because every time I see a creator do a mock draft, they have him a little bit lower. But every time I see an NFL analyst do it, they have him a little bit higher. So if I'm going to debate who I trust more, I'm probably going to trust the NFL analyst just a bit more. No offense to any creator out there. But I'm not going to take Mike Hill here because it feels a little bit early for him.
Yeah, because we're creative.
Yeah, because we're...
So what you thinking, right. Metro?
Shamar Stewart's also on the board here. He's flying up draft boards because of just how talented he is. And again, Shamar Stewart is the exact opposite, where creators have him going top 15, but I've seen NFL analysts have him out of their first round. It's just we gotta find a happy medium here between us and we gotta find a middle ground between us and them. Like they're smoking us with these ones. So they just they're probably doing it on purpose. They're looking down on us like these guys are idiots. Shamar Stewart in the first round. Get out of here.
What are you talking about?
So Jalen Walker's available here. I would definitely consider him. I'm going to take Tetsuo McMillan here, though. Because you look at this receiving core, and yes, I know they took Xavier Legette last year. And he hypothetically could play a very similar role to Ted McMillan. But I don't really know if I saw enough out of Xavier Legette to feel extremely confident that he can be their number one receiver.
That's right.
And you have Bryce Young, who took steps forward last year. You have Jalen Coker, who I like a lot, and I think he's a very talented player. Not receiver 1 quality, but maybe receiver 2, 3 quality. And then Adam Thielen, who is just redefining what it can do at 34 years of age, still putting up great numbers. But
it's at Toyota Camry, man. He won't die.
Dog, I wish I had a Toyota Camry. Got all these car problems right now. But Adam Thielen, he is the Toyota Camry of the slot / even outside receiver at time. Like, this guy's just so consistent. But you got to imagine within the next 2-3 years, the wheels are going to fall off. It could even happen this year, for all we know.
He's allowed to, man. He's done his thing. He's made it
plenty.
As far as he can.
I would also potentially consider Tyler Warren because you have Tommy Tremble and Jatavion Sanders, but I feel okay with what I have there because I think Tommy Tremble can step into a bigger role this upcoming season, and then same with Jatavion Sanders as a pass catcher. Mm-hmm. But if I take Tetsuo McMillan, I feel confident that I have a go-to receiver for Bryce Young. Now, he's not the separator, which Bryce Young likes to throw to guys who can create separation, but he's long, he's lengthy, very sure-handed, hands catcher. For his size, a really solid athlete. Like, this guy's actually really good after he gets the ball in his hands. Like, he is very mobile, can make guys miss. So I think if you give him some plays to get him some separation, like, I don't think this will be a situation like who's the receiver for the Chargers from TCU?
Oh, you're talking about QJ?
Yeah, Quentin Johnston.
Yeah.
Some people have compared him to Quentin Johnston in terms of like, big size, big frame, but can't separate. Don't really see the comparison there. Not to mention, Quentin Johnston had a solid second year. But I think Ted McMillan makes a lot of sense. He just gives this receiving core more clarity, especially if Xavier Legette doesn't break out next year. This receiving core is not very good
at all.
So I'm going to take Tetsuo McMillan here to really give Bryce Young some help on this offense because I think they've done enough defensively where I feel a bit better about it. So we're going to take Ted McMillan.
I like how you said the words clarity because if Legette doesn't pan out, you need somebody to keep Bryce alive and afloat. You got to give him options. And Coker has emerged, correct, but Coker's not going to be your number 1 overall wide receiver. I love the pick at 8. I'm going to go to 9 here for the Saints. We are on the clock. Running back, wide receiver, D lineman. This is where it gets spicy because the Saints are in a sea of mediocrity, and they refuse to just tank, and they keep resigning players to good, decently healthy contracts, so they can't stack cash. and they're picking at 9. And if they were bad, they'd pick it like 4 and get Abdul Carter. But no, you're going to pick at 9 and get somebody you kind of like, but also I'm going to love him because I like the draft and I enjoy these prospects. But here we go. Nonetheless, who are we taking here at 9 overall? I kind of lean one way. You just mentioned 2 of these guys, and yes, there's stuff going on. I don't know the full story, Metro, right? I don't know these guys personally, and I'm not going to judge them off stuff I'm not aware of. I'm not condoning anything. I don't know what they did because nothing has been proven. So with that being said, I think the prospect you get in Mike Green is super special. Him as a football player is what I'm going to talk about right now. You talk about a twitchy athlete, 6'4", 250. Some of the best pass rush moves you've seen, maybe the best pass rush moves out of this entire draft class. He's got a plan and a counterattack for every time he gets off the ball. I love the kind of player you get in Mike Green, and everybody in the NFL just wants somebody that can get after the quarterback. Mike Green is the answer to that problem, and I'm going to take him here at 9 overall, but I also want to hear your thoughts. Is there anybody else you would consider here at 9 overall? I know Mike Green's got stuff going on. I'm just going to pretend he's a football player today, and that's all I'm going to look at. What would you lean into here for the 9 overall?
I just want to talk about the Saints real quick. Justin Reed, 3 years, 31. Brandon Cooks, 2 years, 13. Chase Young, 3 years, 51. Juwan Johnson, 3 years, 30. Are they money laundering? How do they do this?
Dude.
I mean, they didn't even release anybody. And they traded for Devon Godshot. These dudes, every year, it's like, oh, man, this team has to just rebuild, get rid of all these players because they have no money. And then every year they make just some of the craziest signings. This Saints team is solid. It's not bad. And it's why they pick 9 to 20 every single year. But
it pisses me off, honestly. How do you avoid they're just not paying their taxes, dude. The Saints don't pay taxes, and they just avoid them every single year. The cap has to be a myth because they are the prime example of it.
The only thing I could think they are doing is because let me be abundantly clear. I'm not a Saints fan. I'm not tapped in with the Saints like this. I'm assuming they're restructuring deals and pushing them back 3-4 years down the line, which you got to think at some point it's going to bite them in the ass, and they're going to be able to do nothing, and they're just going to suck for the next 15 years. Mm-hmm. So they have to hit in this year's draft. I don't know if they can afford to take project players. One thing I will say about your pick of Mike Green, I love the player in Mike Green. The off the field stuff is very legitimate if it's proven true. I hope it's not because he's a fantastic player. Mm-hmm. I will say I do think the Saints are a team now. New coaching staff, we have to take that into account. Totally new coaching staff, not even guys from within the building. They are a team though that has typically taken bigger edge rushers, more like a Shamar Stewart,
That's correct.
Bigger. Twitchier guys. So I haven't really seen this team take a smaller edge rusher like a Mike Green, who's only 249, 248, 250.
It's a great call out.
So I think Mike Green, if it was up to me and let's say the legal stuff gets taken care of and there's no legitimacy to that and he's totally fine, I would probably take Mike Green because I just think he's such a great player, very twitchy athlete, and as a pass rusher, he is special. But this is the Saints we're talking about, who are a team that like the more bigger, rangier, athletic guys. So I think this one for me would come down to Shamar Stewart and him. I also do want to say that they even could go cornerback because outside of Kool-Aid McKinstry, it's pretty dire. Alontae Taylor was really bad last year. So I know he's young and developing, but he was really bad. I think he led the league in total receiving yards allowed. So I would consider Barron and Will Johnson here, but if you do take Mike Green, I have no complaints about it.
Sounds good. And that's a great breakdown and a great call out at corner. I am going to go with him just because I think he's the best player on the board. And I do love me some Jahdae Barron. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. And also the Saints do typically take bigger prospects to an edge. I totally thought about that. I'm just obsessed with the kind of football player, quote, football player Mike Green is. And I'm going to take him here at 9 for the Saints.
All right, that puts me up at 10 with the Chicago Bears, and the board has fallen how it usually does. I feel like our top 9 picks are the right picks. It's just kind of different order.
Yeah, totally.
I do want to throw this out there. Shedeur Sanders, is he still on the board?
Oh, yeah, buddy.
Interesting.
We're having a Shedeur slide.
Caleb, I'm sorry, buddy, but I like Shedeur better than you. So,
are you serious?
No. That'd be funny, though.
Honestly, hell of a thumbnail. Get some clicks and a lot of angry comments, I'll tell you that.
Maybe we just, continue with this one a little bit, put it in the thumbnail.
Yeah, that's why we're creators.
Yeah, we're creators. We let Will Campbell fall to 32 to the Philadelphia Eagles. We're just creators.
I would cry.
Oh, dude, could you imagine? Will
No.
Campbell, he pulls a Laramie Tunsil and on draft night, and then the Eagles just let him just fall right into their lap. I mean, it's all planted. It happened for a reason.
Everything's planted. The script writers go crazy.
The Bears have had such a fantastic offseason. I feel like we say this every year the past few years, but they've had a really good offseason. And I do think that this is the culmination point where everything has come together, and you look at this roster, and it's damn near complete, right?
Yeah, it is.
Missing a few pieces here and there. You're really just banking on Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams panning out to be legitimately good at their jobs.
Yep.
You bring in Dayo Odeyingbo to pair next to Montez Sweat, who, statistically speaking, Dayo is not the most impressive, but the productivity will come. He has the film for it. He's a very good disruptor. You pair him next to Montez Sweat, who finally gives Montez Sweat somebody to play next to him. Mm-hmm. Grady Jarrett on a large deal. I didn't like how much they paid him. He's not the player he used to be, but it does make a lot of sense. He's still a good player in the league. Drew Dowman, you trade for Jackson, you trade for Thuney. Devin Duvernay can play on the special teams. Durham Smythe can be your backup tight end, maybe even starter at times. Alamine Zacchaeus, and re-sign a bunch of really good players. Like, this team is in such a fantastic spot that they can kind of just take whatever really is the best player on the board. Like, I would love to take Amari Hampton here because I think he makes a lot of sense. But at 10, it might feel a little bit rich because even though I think he's a great player, I don't know if I'd have him top 10. So, again, kind of like the Jets, I do think this is a trade-down situation where there's a lot of teams that might be willing to trade up for a Will Johnson or a Jahdae Barron, and you just kind of have to wait and see how far you have to trade back. Like, if they can trade back with the Falcons from 10 to 15, I would do it in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. With that all said, I'm going to go ahead and just take – because they're in a spot where they can develop a guy. Like, they're trying to develop Austin Booker.
Yeah,
and I think I'm going to take – man, this is tough.
It's a good place to be, though.
I'm debating between Jalen Walker and Shamar Stewart and Micah Williams. My only issue by taking Jalen Walker is I just don't see a path for him to play on the field immediately because you have TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, and I think he needs to develop as a pass rusher.
Yeah.
So unless they want to take an approach where he gets a couple snaps every single game, and then 2-3 years on the line, he's your full-time edge number 2, opposite of Sweat or whoever else is there. But I think he needs to play, and I just don't know if the Bears are the spot for it. So I think I'm going to take. Right. I wish that there was a better interior defensive lineman here that I could take because I would love to take hypothetically like a Kenneth Grant, but he's just not good enough. So
I understand. You could.
I think
if you want to.
It would be a reach, I think, and as much as this team, this team has depth there, like Andrew Billings, Zach Pickens, Jervon Dexter, Grady Jarrett. Like, there's bodies there. I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm going to take Shamar Stewart. Tyler Warren is also in play here because there's always rumors about Cole Kmet leaving. So that does give me some pause, but I think they'll stick with Kmet for another year because tight end's a position where, once your team is a bit more complete, you can take them. And the Bears are in a spot where they could do that. But I just think adding more depth to that defensive line, and I think Shamar Stewart can play opposite of Montez Sweat, could be a rotational guy. Also, I think he's capable of playing an interior defensive tackle spot at times because he has that size.
Totally.
And I think in certain pass rushing packages, you're having Dayo Odeyingbo, Grady Jarrett, Shamar Stewart, and Montez Sweat all going after the quarterback. So while I don't think it's the biggest need, let's just say Austin Booker doesn't pan out. Your backups are Daniel Hardy and Dominique Robinson, which I don't feel great about. So I'm going to take Shamar Stewart to develop behind Sweat and I think be a fantastic player for this team to add. So they're in a point of privilege at this point, which is shocking to say for Chicago.
Man, that pick is absolutely sick. You talk about it's perfect for him because he doesn't have to perform year one. He can truly develop, and that's the spot to be. You get Shamar Stewart one-on-one, which is a rarity in the NFL. If you're a first-round pick, usually you're going double teams most all day long. But if you're Shamar Stewart on the Bears, they're not the best D-line in the country, but they can ball. And they're pretty solid now, and they got a pretty solid lineup there on that D-line. Shamar Stewart will have a lot of one-on-one matchups, and he can definitely win those in the league. And, I love the pick, dude. Number 11, the 49ers are on the clock. And here we got some options, but one is leaning towards my favorite pick for sure. And I'm just going to come out and say, instead of beating around the bush, Jahdae Barron, awesome cornerback out of Texas, can play the slot, can play outside, and he had a very good combine. In his film, he doesn't run 4.4 fast, But what did he run, like a 4.29 actually? No, that was Golden. I'm mixing my Texas guys up.
Yeah,
but Jay Barron,
4.39.
there you go.
Well, maybe it was a 4.29 actually.
No, that was Golden. 4.39 is Barron. You're correct.
Okay.
I just messed him up. But Jay Barron had a great day
Yeah.
at the combine. Wasn't expected to run that fast, but absolutely killed it, which just solidifies it for these NFL teams. He can do it all, man. He's physical. He's not lengthy as a corner, but I don't really care. He's just a playmaker at all times. He's good around the ball, and he's got great closing speed. And I love the value you get in Jahdae Barron. And we absolutely know the 49ers need it. But I will say, guard and tackle is extremely, extremely a need going into this draft. But I just think the value getting Jahdae Barron is too good, and it is a need as well. Metro, what say you? What do you think about this pick at 11 overall?
There'd be 4 guys I would consider here: Will Campbell, Jahdae Barron, Shahad Campbell, and Jalen Walker, which is interesting because all 4 of those players have extreme versatility to play multiple positions, which is what this Niners team kind of needs right now because of how much they've lost. I would be okay passing on Will Campbell, even though I love Will Campbell and I think he's a great player. And truth be told, he might go
can I
top
just
10.
say, I'm so sorry. You know when you do mock drafts and you get blinders on? I didn't even see Will. I'm going to keep it a buck, man. He's been on here so long, and usually he's always gone by like 7. And I truly mean it. I had no idea he was even there. That's my pick. I didn't know Will Campbell was on the board, and it's an absolute need. And I love Jahdae Barron, but man, Will's an awesome O-lineman.
I do want to. I would, if it was me, I actually think I would pass on Will Campbell as much as I love Will Campbell, because I just look at the secondary. There's a few reasons why I would. For starters, I think their tackles are fine. Trent Williams obviously is old, he's 36, 37, so he's going to be gone probably 2 years down the line. Mm-hmm. Colton McKivitz, you feel okay about. Ben Barch, Jake Brendel, Dominic Pooney. Pooney's pretty good. You lose Aaron Banks. I think you can get by with that offensive line, especially if you take a guy in the day 2.
Yeah.
But their linebacking core is Fred Warner, Luke Gifford, who, by the way, was a special teams guy, I want to say for the Cowboys, and then D. Winters, who actually, 26 solo tackles last year, so 6th-round pick in 2023, so, shout out to that guy.
That's pretty good.
But, I mean, if I can take a Campbell or Jalen Walker who can play multiple positions, can both be pass rushers, and then there's Jahdae Barron, who you talked about as somebody you are also considering. This is a team that has Renardo Green, who I love Renardo Green. I think he's going to be a great player. Malik Mustafa, Jair Brown are both your safety duos. You also have Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock, so you feel good about safety. But your corners are just Renardo Green, Trey Brown, and Diomandre Lenore. So maybe you consider. Now, I will say Will Campbell is Will freaking Campbell. So
Will freaking Campbell, man.
For me, I think I would take Jalen Walker or Jahad Campbell. But if you take Will Campbell, I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. In fact, I kind of love it. But
okay, bet.
Totally up to you.
No, totally. And I'm straight up honest. Did not see him. And Will Campbell, this is just me. This is where, Metro, it's good that we talk. It's healthy that we talk because one of the few players I don't see eye to eye with you on because, man, we're just complete enemies. Jalen Walker, I'm like, he's good. I take a lot of guys over him because I see the versatility and I see the potential. But at 11, I am taking the surefire hit in Will Campbell personally. Jahdae Barron. Jalen Walker has his place in time for me and in my heart, but I'll tell you right now, today, it is not at 11. I'm going to take Will Campbell right here. He's an absolute need, a leader on that offense, and he'll just fit the culture very well there in San Francisco.
Yeah, and this is a Niners team that needs to win now, too. Like, they can't afford to develop, so makes sense.
It's time.
Checks out. All right, I have Cowboys at 12 here, and the board has really not worked out for them right now.
Which is rare.
Yeah, which is rare, yeah. Gentry's off the board. The top 3 is Kelvin Banks off the board? He is.
Yep. I took him real early.
So 3 tackles are off the board. Armon, Campbell, and Banks. Receiver 1's off the board. And I would go Jahad Campbell or Jalen Walker, but they've kind of aggressively have addressed the position by bringing in the dude from the Chargers here. Hold on. And they brought in the dude from the Bears, too. They brought in Kenneth Murray, Jack Sanborn. Yeah. They have DeMarvin Overshown who's coming back from injury. And Maurice LaFau actually had a pretty solid year. But, man, this is a tough spot. I think there's a chance that Trevon Diggs gets cut within the next 2-3 years.
Ooh.
And you lose Jordan Lewis. And right now their backups for their secondary is Khair Elam, who is just was terrible for the Bills. I mean, a consistent traffic cone out there. Kalen Carson, who, from what I've heard, the Cowboys liked him, but
Traffic cone? That's crazy.
no, dude, did you watch him? I believe it was against the playoffs. I think they were going against either the Chiefs or somebody. He was getting torched every play. He had a highlight reel against just one player. I don't think I've ever seen a team just pick one player and say, you cannot guard me one-on-one. Like, it was, for basketball fans out there, it was Jordan versus me. Like, this dude couldn't guard nobody. And you put me against Jordan, I'm getting schooled by that guy. So I think I might just take it's between Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron.
Okay.
Admittedly speaking, my Texas bias leans towards Jahdae Barron, and I do think he's a fantastic corner. And because they lost Jordan Lewis, this defense, they lost, in my opinion, their most consistent secondary member. Because Bland and Diggs are always injured. Hooker and Wilson, I like Hooker, but Wilson's super inconsistent. I think they've done a good job on the defensive line, but they haven't really addressed interior defensive line. But I think 12, Kenneth Grant feels a little early. I think you can get by with your offensive line right now, and because there really isn't anybody worth taking. Man, I really want to take a receiver in Matthew Golden because it just makes a lot of sense to pair next to CeeDee Lamb.
Be pretty cool.
I think I'm going to take Jahdae Barron here because I think Diggs is, I think his days are numbered as a Cowboys, quite frankly. Maybe not this year, but within the next 2 years, like he's just always injured.
Yeah.
And it's just really difficult. Like they're one injury away in this secondary from being just trash.
So you're not wrong, brother.
The Cowboys like their first round bust. They brought in Peyton Turner. They brought in Kaiir Elam. They brought in Kenneth Murray. Javonte Williams, I guess not a first round bust, but just all these dudes who are just total busts. And I'm sorry, if Kaiir Elam gets playing time, like legitimate playing time next year, it's going to get bad for this Cowboys team. I'm sorry if I feel like I'm picking on Kaiir Elam here.
You are. He's gonna find you. He's gonna
Kaiir,
gonna share your address.
You are trash. No disrespect, but full disrespect here. You are trash, buddy.
Oh,
better than
boy.
me. You would cook me in a one-on-one. I ain't beating you off the line of scrimmage. You're putting me in the bleachers, but I'm taking Jahdae Barron. I'm sorry, Kaiir. I'm gonna need you to play special teams, bud.
What if he has a crazy year and just turns it around completely?
Oh, dude, cut the video, delete it.
Delete the whole damn video. 13.
If Kaiir Elam
Go
goes
ahead.
off next year, maybe I'll just quit because that'll be
No longer creator.
no. I'll go be an NFL analyst and take Shamar Stewart round 2.
Potato, man. We're all just out here guessing. We don't know shit. 13th overall, we got the Dolphins on the clock. And similar to what Metro said, Tua, he didn't say this, but Tua just keeps getting smacked upside the head. And I hate to see it. And I want to take a tackle here. But the question comes down to, do you feel comfortable in taking the swing on Josh Simmons being hurt? Because quarterbacks are already getting hurt a decent amount. He's getting hit a lot. Can we afford to nurse the guy off an ACL tear, or do we need him right now? I don't think you do that quite. If it's like Kelvin Banks here, I do think you take the player at 13. But Josh Simmons, going to take longer to develop, and we need to go now. We have a coach on the hot seat. Maybe not a hot seat, but like a light hot seat. It's definitely on the way. Yeah. So I'm going to avoid tackle here. Defensive interior, this is where we enter the territory of potential picks. How much do you like Kenneth Grant and his upside? Some teams at 339, 6'3", and his nimbleness and ability to move around and have exceptional quickness will shine to some players, and he'll be an auto selection here in these next couple picks. If he doesn't go here, he's going to go down the board a little bit more, maybe more towards the Cardinals. But I just think we have waited too long on a player who had a bad 2024, but also he had some pick sixes and looked pretty good. The 2023 tape, though, is exceptional. 6'2", 202. This is a great cornerback prospect who's really just slipped throughout the draft process. And I'm not going to say this is like a common theme for all of them because I'm probably just going to be wrong here, and that's okay. That's okay because I'm a creator and I just talk on a camera. Players that usually slide late in the draft process end up being just fine. You know what I mean? Unless it's like a serious issue. Will Johnson's got kind of prospect fatigue because he broke out in 2023. He won a national championship. Can you blame the guy? I'd fall off too. Will Johnson is a very good cornerback prospect, and he's a position of need, and that's where I lean throughout all these choices. Metro, I'm probably going to go this way, but of course, want to hear your thoughts here as well.
Yeah, I would take Will Johnson would be my number one option. Then it would be Malachi Starks because their safeties are really rough right now. Interior
awesome,
defensive
dude.
line is also a big time need because right now it's just Zach Sealer and Benito Jones, which I like Zach Sealer, but they could really use another body there. Last player I would consider would be Gray Zabel because he could play multiple offensive line positions, but
Yeah.
it feels a little bit early for him right now. He's listed as a tackle.
Word.
But I think I would agree with you. I mean, Storm Duck was your starter next year. Hell of a name, by the way.
Great
Storm
name.
Duck is crazy. Kadir Kaho, I think Kahu, however you say his name. He had a he's been solid in that nickel position, but I don't see him playing outside corner. And then of course Jalen Ramsey, he's 30, so his best years are probably behind him, but he's still a fantastic player.
Yeah.
But you put Will Johnson next to Jalen Ramsey,
Oh, man.
and this is a Dolphins team that needs a strength on both sides, frankly. And I think by adding Will Johnson, you're finding a strength within your cornerback room, and then you just got to find a way to build up. And I think there's some good round two defensive tackles. So I do think they're in a spot where they can do it. It sucks that all the offensive linemen are off the board, but
Yeah, I know.
it's how the board fell. So you're rocking with Aaron Brewer, James Daniels, and Liam Eichenberg as your three interior guys, which could be better, but you don't pass on Will Johnson.
No, and that's exactly where I'm at. Best player overall, and I'm going to take Will Johnson right here and throw it to you at, feels like the sentence pick at 14. Do what you will, brother.
I mean, do I need to explain? I mean,
Every
now,
single year.
I will say
draft.
they've had a good free agency in terms of adding certain pieces
Yeah.
to their secondary, but they lost some pieces on the offensive line. Again, going back to our conversation, if there was a Kelvin Banks available, if there was a Will Campbell, again, we talked about the Jets being a trade down spot. I think the Colts should be at least talking some trades there to see if they can get up to potentially take those guys. But they also haven't addressed tight end much. Drew Ogletree, Will Mallory, Jelani Woods.
It's rough out
it's
there.
Trash. And it ain't looking to us. So to all Colts fans who are watching, I'm sorry, but I'm taking Tyler Ward. It's just
sorry.
the right pick to make. He is a great player, can fill multiple needs, gives them an identity on offense. I think we all know the hoopla about it, so let's just move on.
It needs to be done. Here we are at 15 overall, and the Atlanta Falcons are on the board. And then Metro mentioned a player he likes a lot. And I'm not as big as a fan, but truly, right here, it's starting to make some sense. The linebacker, the edge, both big positions of need. And what if we had a player that does both? I have the answer for you, Atlanta Falcons. I'm leaning towards a stud inside linebacker, potential edge prospect. Why am I blind? Right here, Jalen Walker out of Georgia. You talk about a guy who's got freakish athleticism. He can rush the passer like nobody's business. Long arms and a 6'2 frame. Twitchy as hell and super explosive. Just a nightmare. And more importantly, a chess piece for that D coordinator. I love what Jalen Walker would bring to the Atlanta Falcons and how it would diversify their defense. And it just really fits it very, very well in their scheme. Metro, what are we thinking, man? I know you love this guy, but are you like, Cade, not the pick? I want somebody else here. This is who I'm leaning towards.
It feels like the right pick. It's between him and Jahad Campbell.
Yep.
Now, admittedly speaking, I am very high on Jahad Campbell. I love Jahad. If I were to do a big board, I think I'd put Campbell in front of Walker, frankly. But
Okay.
I think that Walker has a higher ceiling as a pass rusher.
Me too.
And I think that this is a Falcons team that needs pass rush help more so than linebacker help. And they bring in Leonard Floyd, you bring in Divine Diablo, so you have some new pieces to play with. But Jalen Walker, I think, is probably who I would also take here. So I don't disagree with it at all.
Totally.
You can also consider Micah Williams, but he's not much of a pass rusher instantly. I think Walker's steps in day one could be that.
For sure. Jalen Walker, I feel much more confident could cause ruckus and chaos on day one. So I'm going to take him right here. And like you said, real quick, honorable mention to Jahad Campbell. More of a coverage guy, Also great in the run, of course, but just not the kind of impact Jalen would have to echo what you said. So I'm going to punch him in right here and then give it to you at 16 overall.
The Cardinals are really a roster that's really coming together quite nicely in year 3 of who's their head coach name?
Oh, why am I blanking? It's the guy from the Eagles, and
Jonathan Gannon.
Thank you.
Jonathan. It's a team that really has come together quite nicely. I mean, you're bringing in Josh Sweat, you're bringing in Dalvin Tomlinson. Like, if you have B.J. Ojolari, like, you feel pretty good about your defensive line. I still think maybe you want to bring in another difference maker in the interior of your interior defensive line. But I don't really know if that's the biggest thing right now, especially with how the board's kind of falling here. Unfortunately, there's no tackles that I feel really great about because their interior of the offensive line could use some work for the Cardinals, especially the guard positions. But, man, this is a really interesting spot. I think I might even consider a receiver here because you have Marvin Harrison Jr., and then outside of him, you have Michael Wilson, who I know they're high on, but is he a 2, right, or is he more of a 3? Then there's Greg Dortch, who I think is a 3, but I don't know if he could ever really become that 2, right? I think he's more of a 3/4. And with the way the board's fallen, there isn't any tackles that I like right now. Maybe Gray Zabel I would consider, but 16 feels a little bit early for him. I might consider Kenneth Grant, but I think they've done enough to address that spot. No Jahdae Barron, no Will Johnson's on the board, so I don't think I'm going to reach on a Maxwell Hairston or a Trey Amos. I could maybe take a Malachi Starks and see if he can play corner, but that would be asking a lot of him.
Yeah.
So I'm in a predicament here, but I think I'm going to go ahead and take the receiver. And of the receiving options on the board, Luther Burden, Matthew Golden, and Emeka Egbuka, I think Matthew Golden's the second best receiver, but I don't necessarily know if they need an outside guy. More so they need somebody who can have some versatility to play a bit more in the slot, but also playing on the outside. Marvin Harrison's a true outside X receiver. You have Trey McBride. I think this team would really do numbers with a speedy, athletic second option like a Luther Burden. So I think I'm going to take Luther Burden here to be a bit more of that flexible option who could play the slot, can play on the outside, and is a really solid athlete, especially after when he gets the ball in his hands. Like, this dude is just going to develop quite nicely alongside Marvin Harrison Jr., and you're giving Kyler Murray more weapons to work with. Offensive line still needs some work, but I'm gonna stick with Luther Burden. That's the first time I think I've made that pick, so we're going Luther Burden here.
I like it. It's a curveball. It hasn't been done before in the history of mock drafts. Probably not true, but I just want to say it.
No, never done.
Ever, man, ever. Luther Burden is a fun player, dude. You talk about combining him and Marvin Harrison Jr. What an absolute nightmare for any defense. Luther Burden can pack a punch. Comp here of Deebo Samuel, and I get it, dude. He packs a punch with anybody he's running against. He's like a running back with the ball in his hands, and he's also a pretty damn good receiver. So I love the pick, and that's all I got. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, skinny Deebo, not fat Deebo.
That two big differences right there.
Yeah, let's take two totally different players. We're talking 2021, 2022 Deebo, not 2024 Deebo. Totally different guy.
Totally different guy, bro. Totally different guy. Here we are, 17, and we got the Bengals on the clock. But before we do that, I just want to mention we don't have ad reads yet because we're brand new. This is our very first video. But I do want to call out, we are also individual creators. So if y'all want to go check out our channels, go check out, first of all, Metro's lovely football channel. He's got all things football, all things NFL and NFL. And let's restart that. Metro's got all things NFL analysis. Go check out his channel. We'll put it down in the description below. Awesome content for him right there. And if you want some more subpar content, go over to my channel at Cade Rathbone. And I'm going to put that in the description as well. Thank you guys for your support. But let's get back into this video. 17 overall. The Bengals are on the clock. And honestly, for the Bengals, I'm very happy if I'm right here. Jahad Campbell, dope prospect that we could definitely go with right here. Guard, I think I like the more the options I get on defense compared to a guard for the Bengals. That's just me. Probably a bigger position of need, but I'd rather go a different direction. Metro, I'm going to go in a direction you probably don't like because I'm going to have to scroll down the board a bit to get him. But I don't really mind because I'm really high on this guy. You talk about a prospect, and I'm scrolling all the way down here. Nick Scorton, 34 average ADP. Oh, the community's going to flame me up. Listen here now, folks. Big, physical, run defender, and great pass rusher. You look at his tape at Purdue, he was doing special things. He carries 280 extremely well, and I've also heard he dropped some weight again. He got skinny, and he dropped his pounds back down, so he can move like he once did at Purdue. The production, the run defense, the pass rush ability, and I think he's 20 years old, and if not 21 years old on draft day, a young prospect with a huge ceiling. Nick Scorton, extremely underrated in my eyes, and I think he fits what you need for this Bengals defense. Metro, I'm sure you're going to be like, what the hell are you doing, brother? But I love this prospect, and I think he's extremely underrated and deserves to go above all these guys at 17.
Yeah, very fun curveball here. My one counter to that,
Hit me.
do you think he's a little similar to like Miles Murphy? Where big, long, like Miles Murphy, 6'5", 270, limited production with Clemson, but showed glimpses of what he could become. Went to the Bengals as more of a developmental guy, hasn't really panned out. Now, it's not a top 5 pick, so you can take the riskier pick here.
Totally.
I will admit, I like Nick Scourton. I'm totally for Nick Scourton, especially because that 2023 Purdue tape is really good. And I didn't think he was bad last year at all with Texas A&M. Just, I don't know what it is. Texas A&M just couldn't get to the quarterback. They could get pressure. They could get their hands on him. Couldn't bring him down. My one counter would be this offensive line sucks. It's what was that?
It was a counter. It was a curveball.
Oh, okay, yeah. This offensive line sucks. For starters, it's old. Orlando Brown, well, he's not old. Let me rephrase that. He's not old. It's not good. Orlando Brown Jr., 28 years old, a little inconsistent. Amarius Mims, you feel good about your right tackle. But then you look at the interior. Cordell Volson, Ted Karras, Cody Ford, Boo, and Boo. They all suck. No, I'm kidding. They're not bad. Cody Ford, rotational. He shouldn't be a starter. It could be more of a sixth man, quote unquote. Ted Karras, you're okay with, and Cordell Volson, I don't love. So I'm looking at Gray Zabel, and I'm also looking at Tyler Booker as who I would think about taking their butts. Big butt. This defense was, 30th best in the NFL last year, if not worse.
Horrible. And
they've done really nothing to fix it. In fact, they're actively hurting it by trying to trade Trey Hendrickson. So, I don't know. If it was me, I'm taking Jahad Campbell because I'm a Jahad Campbell guy. But if you do take Nick Scourton, listen, people can hate it all they want. Nick Scourton's a great player. He just is. And he does feel like he has the size that the Bengals typically go for. For me, it feels a little early for him. I would prefer Campbell because Campbell's on the board here. But if you're going Nick Scourton, I don't have any. I'm not gonna plant my flag on it and say that this is a good pick. But I'm not gonna say it's a bad pick. I think it's a fun pick.
Totally. And you could think it's a bad pick. I am going to plant my flag here. Nick, is Scourton is the correct way to say it?
I think it's Scourton, but I always say Scourton because it's just kind of forced a habit.
Okay. Either way, Nick, you're a badass player, brother, and I don't think you get the attention you deserve. And like you said, he kind of fits that mold of a bigger defensive lineman that these Bengals really like. And I do agree with you. There are shades of the Murphy there, but I just liked what I saw at Purdue, and I also liked what he saw at A&M. Just not as many sacks as we would like. 4 isn't invisible, right? Like, you're still doing stuff. 28 hurries as well. But not the 8 we had for the season before. Why did it increase? I'm just going to blame A&M because this is ridiculous, Aggies. What are we doing at this point? But I'm going to take Nick here, 417 for the Bengals.
And that puts me at pick 18 with the Seahawks, who have been a very, very busy team. Obviously, the big news, Geno Smith's out the door, Sam Darnold's in the door. What are your thoughts on that? I don't believe we've talked about that.
Dude, we have not. I mean, you talk about a trade. Okay, how do I say this? In their eyes, didn't they save money on this? They saved money and they got a draft pick. So I call that a win-win.
I think Geno gets paid less now, but he's going to be due for a contract where he's going to get paid more than Sam. So hypothetically, yes.
Totally. And they also saved on your boy Metcalf. And I understand he's a really good receiver, but I personally wouldn't pay Metcalf that money. So overall, you got cheaper. You stayed around the same production. I like the move. I think Geno Smith is a wildly underrated quarterback. And yes, he's older. I get it. And he had a rough start to his career, but he's really developed into something pretty nice. I think it was a good move for both teams involved, the Raiders and the Seahawks. And I love it overall. I love to see quarterback swaps that are healthy, mature, and help both teams in a good way. What about you, Metro?
Yeah, I did too. The Raiders, I mean, it's kind of a perfect situation for Sam to come into a Seahawks roster and then for Geno to go to a team in the Raiders that is trying to compete too. So it kind of felt like all teams kind of won in their own ways. I'm a little bit higher on the Seahawks than a lot of other people are. It feels like there's a lot of negativity around this team, and I can see why, because their offensive line still isn't very good, and there is some question marks about the fit between Kupp and JSN. I'm gonna say it right now. I think the fit is very fun between both these players. You get two dudes who can just eat up so much space in the underneath, whether it's a short pass, intermediate, or a seam route to Cooper Kupp or JSN. Like, it's going to be extremely difficult to cover those guys. And you think about it, what other team in the NFL has two guys who primarily play in the intermediate to short game that just destroys defenses? It's the Kansas City Chiefs. You got Kelsey, you got Rashee Rice. And then you have somebody like Xavier Worthy now. Obviously, Rice got injured, which was unfortunate. But hypothetically, you have Xavier Worthy, who's a bit more of your downfield stretcher. So if you're the Seahawks, you have JSN. Hypothetically, let's just call him Travis Kelsey. You got Cooper Kupp, who, when healthy, will be your Rashee Rice. Noah Fant could play, a bit more of a seam route sort of guy. I don't know what his role will be in this offense, quite frankly, but you can figure it out. And then Marquez Valdes-Scantling is your Xavier Worthy, your downfield stretcher. Still think this team would benefit from having a long, lengthy receiver. If McMillan falls, I think he would be a fun pick. If you look in the second round, there's some really good second-round receivers that have good size, good length. Maybe a Savion Williams, an Alec Ayamanor, Jack Betch, although maybe not Jack Betch, but like Trey Harris. So just throwing that out there for some little look at. But I look at this offensive line. Charles Cross, left tackle, you feel good about. When healthy, Abraham Lucas, you feel good about, but he just can't stay healthy, it seems like.
Yep.
Interior's questionable. I think you feel okay about Olu at center, Anthony Bradford at right guard, maybe. But I think I'm going to take Gray Zabel here over Josh Simmons. I like Simmons, but I think this team needs a guard. But I also think Gray Zabel can play tackle if you need him to in a pinch. So I think it kind of addresses multiple positions. I love Gray Zabel. His offseason so far has really helped him out in the Senior Bowl and what he's been able to do since then. So I'm going to take Gray Zabel to give Sam Darnold more help on this offensive line, which was kind of the Achilles heel of Minnesota. And I think Seattle will be smart to go ahead and try to shore that up.
Awesome pick right there. And like you said, they for sure need it. So I got no critiques, no comments. I love the move. Awesome. We're going to 19 with the Bucks on the clock. We have edge, linebacker, and DB. And this is where things start falling into place. There are some prospects that shouldn't be on this board this late, in my opinion. You look at guys like Jahad Campbell, really, really good linebacker. He's got great coverage ability. Malachi Starks, also kind of a victim of prospect fatigue, a really good safety back there on the back end for your defense. And then James Pierce, character issues as a whole. So something to pay attention to. But at the end of the day, he's got a 23% pass rush win rate when it's a true pass rush down. Extremely high number right there. I love what he brings to your pass rush arsenal on your defense. But with all that being said, which direction do I want to go? It's kind of just picking your poison. Metro, I'm curious because I don't know actually. Who's your favorite player out of these three if you had to pick from this group?
Jahad Campbell.
Jahad Campbell? Because of his coverage ability or what's up?
Well, I look at it and I say, okay, Levante David's, 35, 36, 34? Probably in his later stage of his career. You have some guys around him you feel okay with. You bring in Hassan Reddick, who I think could, if he's able to turn back the clock to what he looked like with the Eagles, you're hoping that he can become that guy, or at least a version of that where he gets you 8 to 10 sacks, right? Kalijah Kancey had a really good year last year. He's continuing to develop. Yaya Diaby. I like James Pierce Jr., but I think that there are really big flaws to his game, and the off-the-field stuff is concerning. When it comes to Malachi Starks, I think you feel okay about your secondary. Like, this team would really benefit from a true cornerback one, but they're really having a hard time finding that. But you feel okay with Jamel Dean, Zion McCollum, Tyke Smith, so on and so forth. So for me, I'm taking Jahad Campbell to honestly be your Levante David replacement and get a lot of playing time early on, and then in 2026 he'll be your full-time starter. And he can also rush the quarterback too. Like, he was an edge coming out of high school, 5-star. Alabama's tough to kind of break the rotation, so he switched over to linebacker, and he was fantastic. So I would personally go with Jahad Campbell. He's solid in coverage, extremely good athlete, has versatility, really reliable tackler. And, man, he makes some splashy plays, and it's going to be fun to see him in a Buccaneers uniform if it does happen, which I have heard some rumors it might. So I would go with Jahad Campbell here.
That'd be sweet. And I do like the mentorship opportunity you could get with him and David. You can't always find that kind of, I don't know, you get a prospect with so much upside. The upside doesn't always come out, but it can when you have a mentor like that in David. So I'm going to take Jahad Campbell right here. I think you said it perfectly. All three really good players, but the whole segue and development process just makes the most sense for Jahad Campbell.
For sure. So I am now up at 20 with the Denver Broncos, who, man, their defense is just disgusting. It's maybe the best defense on paper in the league. With that said, offensively, they haven't really addressed it as much as I thought they would, and it's hard to blame them when you're bringing in Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga to your defense. So there's two ways I can look at this. I can go Matthew Golden to be that opposite outside receiver next to Cortland Sutton, or I can take Amarian Hampton because right now the running backs are Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime, which I don't feel good about. I think I'm going to go ahead and take Matthew Golden because right now this team has Cortland Sutton, Devon Vele, Troy Franklin, a bunch of guys that feel like third options. They really need that second guy. Also Marvin Mims, shout out to him. But they really need that second option to help both Cortland Sutton and Bo Nix. It feels like Cortland Sutton is struggling with going up against cornerback ones. It's kind of holding him back from being that, what he truly can be. I think Matthew Golden could be somebody who can help kind of unlock even more of Cortland Sutton and really be a fantastic high-end wide receiver too. So I'm going to take Matthew Golden here, and I'm going to assume they'll take running back in round 2.
No, love Matthew Golden's an awesome wide out. And you talk about a great fit, pairing him up, man, you got to love it.
Yep.
So he's going to go to the board at 21. And 21 here I have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who this is where the quarterback territory starts. For other guys like, I don't know, Shedeur Sanders is still on the board.
Oh, my gosh. I forgot about that. Not gonna lie, I forgot about that.
He has slipped a little bit down here, and this is starting to feel like a spot I'd feel very comfortable taking him. And with that being said, Metro, I got nothing else to say. Shedeur Sanders, you fall to a team like Pittsburgh Steelers with a pretty good franchise. He has said numerous times, I will only go to a franchise that I care about and cares about me and has a good reputation. Is that true? I don't know. I thought we'll take the highest pick possible. But Shedeur Sanders, him on the Pittsburgh Steelers, will be pretty cool and a good place to develop and learn under Mike Tomlin. Not an offensive-minded guy, but also just a really solid program that you know is going to have success and succeed for a long time in their division. So, talk about a good spot for Shedeur Sanders. I'm going to take him here unless you feel differently.
No, I have no complaints here. I think he does. There's a chance he falls outside of like the top 5. I don't know if it's likely. I think he'll probably stick in the top 5, but there is a chance that he does fall. The way I kind of look at it, if the Browns and Giants, if they don't take Shedeur, he's falling probably to the Steelers at 21, which would make a lot of sense. Steelers don't even have a quarterback of any sort of value on the roster. I think they have Mason Rudolph, but certified backup, let's be honest. Shedeur Sanders steps in there, has a decent roster around him, although it's not perfect, but there are some pieces there for him to work with. Yep. There's already rumors of Jackson Dart going to them. And listen, me and Cade are, I would assume, are in the same boat on this one. We don't view Jackson Dart as round 1 caliber.
No, he's a good player, not round 1 caliber.
Round 2, maybe the conversation starts. Yep. I wouldn't personally take him. I don't think he's round 2. But the only other option that I think the Steelers would consider here would be Amarian Hampton because their running back room is a little bit in need of a guy. But yeah, totally. I mean, Shedeur Sanders falls into your lap. Shedeur Sanders is better than Kenny Pickett. I don't want to hear any of the, Kenny Pickett 2.0 conversations. If it happens, it happens, but I don't think he will. I think if Shedeur does go to the Steelers, I think it's a great spot for him, especially if they potentially get Aaron Rodgers for a year. You let Shedeur sit behind him. So either way, it works out quite nicely. So, yeah, I have no issue with it.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I think if he falls this, there's just no way he makes it past Pittsburgh if he goes all the way to 21. So I'm going to take him right here. And Shedeur Sanders, you are a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Good to get him off the board. Honestly, I kind of forgot about him, but frankly, there's no team that would take him in between the top 5 and 21. It's a legitimate slide.
Like, that could happen on draft day.
Yeah, so I'm now up with the Chargers, and really the board is falling quite nicely for them because Colston Loveland's still available because they could really use tight end. Defensive linemen are also still available, like a Michael Williams, who is slipping a little bit here and easily could be somebody who plays next to Khalil Mack and Tuli Tuipulotu. Maybe you look at receiver, though I feel okay about the receiving core. Although they brought in Mike Williams, we'll see what he can do. Oh, this is an interesting one. There's also Malachi Starks, who I'm not going to take here, but because you already have a Loie Gilman and Derwin James, Elijah Molden, but
Yeah.
it does feel like he should be off the board by now, and I would love to take him, but the Chargers don't really need him. So in this spot, I think I'm just going to go ahead and take Colston Loveland. Obviously, the Michigan connection. This team could really benefit from having a receiving tight end option. I've seen some people say that Colston could be a bust. I don't know if I think he will be, especially just of how good of a receiver he truly can be. Like, he feels a bit more like a receiver more so than a tight end. That's just how good of a pass-catching tight end he is.
Totally.
I don't know if he'll ever be an inline blocker, but I think he can get by, especially with Will Dissly and who you already have. I will say, I believe they brought in Tyler Conklin, too, so that maybe does change it up. But I'm going to stick with my pick here and take Colston Loveland. Yes, you took Tyler Conklin, but he's probably going to be a bit more of your run blocker. So we'll take Colston Loveland here.
Awesome pick right there. And here we got the Green Bay Packers at 23, and they are on the clock. Now, the Packers historically, okay, guys, let's call it how it is. Let's address the elephant in the room. Wide receiver. They won a one. They got a bunch of really good twos. They don't have a one wide out. And in my eyes, I don't think out of these guys, I think Amika's really good. I think Alex really good. I don't think they're number one certified baller wide receivers. And that's the only way I take one in the first round. Because there's more. I can get one later. That's just how I see it. So with that being said, I'm going to go something more traditional for the Packers and take a really good defensive player here in the late first round. As they always do, they get great talent every single year. Now, who's the best player on the board in my eyes? To me, it's James Pierce Jr. And if he could slide all the way to 23, and I understand he's got some limiting factors and a history we talked about. He's got some character issues, quote unquote. I don't know the guy personally, never talked to him in my life. But James Pierce Jr., if we're just calling how he is, he's damn good at football. Super quick first step, explosive off the ball, great twitch, and also can convert speed into power, which isn't super common in today's NFL. If you're a speed guy, you should remain a speed guy. He has that bag. He has that move in his bags, as the kids say. And I like what he brings. And he also had a great combine. I think he ran a 4.4. Is that right, Metro? This guy ran out the turf, out the dome.
Yeah, he looks very athletic. A little bit undersized, which is unfortunate. But you pair him next to Rashawn Gary. You have Lucas Van Ness developing. This team could really benefit from having a guy with proven pass rush productivity. Yep. I like Donovan Ezeraku as well, but I think James Pierce Jr. would make a lot of sense here for the Packers, so I have no big gripe with it. I feel like in the 20s is where he should go, and I think this is a good spot for him right here.
Totally agree. And I love Donovan, too. I absolutely love James Pierce Jr. So he's going right here to the Green Bay Packers. Yet again, Rats, always getting a good player. I see you Packers fans. And then here we go, 24.
All right, I got the Minnesota Vikings on the board here. They have had also a very good and busy offseason, really changing up the roster. McCarthy's now your guy at quarterback. You feel pretty good about the weapons around him, Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson. Maybe you could use a wide receiver 3. Maybe think that's more of a round or a day 2 option. You address the interior of your offensive line by bringing in Ryan Kelly, Will Fries. Increased your defensive interior presence with Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen.
Yeah.
I still think that they would benefit from having a big physical space eater, like a big old fat guy.
Yeah,
in the interior of the defensive line. That would make some sense. I also think corner is also a position of need because you did bring in Isaiah Rodgers. You still have Byron Murphy, but I think you could benefit from having somebody opposite of those guys. But there's a player here who shouldn't be on the board. It's Malachi Starks. Ooh. They need safety help really badly. Harrison Smith is, how old is Harrison Smith? 36. Oh, 36 is crazy for a secondary.
Bro's a grandpa.
Yeah, and he's still a great player, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Unlike Kaiir Elam, this dude is an absolute baller. So I'm going to assume that Harrison Smith
the rivalry is real.
Yeah, we're going to have beef for the rest of this channel's existence. I'm going to make it my personal mission to just continue to. He's going to block me on Twitter or something like that one day.
Oh, bro. Yeah, he's going to
find
my goal.
You. That is my 100% goal, is to get blocked by Kaiir Elam. So, Kaiir, if you're watching, which I don't think you are, but if you are, block me. Anyway, Malachi Starks. I want Malachi Starks to play opposite of Harrison Smith and Theo Jackson. I also think Malachi Starks has some flexibility to play corner. I think he could play it. He's got really good hips, good athlete, can matched surprisingly well in man coverage. Like, you don't really see safeties match it as well as he can at times. So I'm going to go ahead and take Malachi Starks here. Again, this is a fall for him. I think he's a fantastic player, but safeties typically do fall. Derwin James is a great example of that a few years ago. So we're going to take Malachi Starks here, and I think Vikings fans should be very happy about that one.
Dude, what an awesome pick right there. I mean, Malachi Starks is everything you want in your safety. I don't know if you saw his combine. I know people shouldn't look at combine reps because it's not that important, but he looked special, man. He had this one rep where he was flipping the hips, went deep, and then caught the ball midair. Dude looked like he was floating above the entire stadium. He looked special.
Great
Nonetheless, great player. We're on to 25. What does Bill Belichick say? We're on to... You remember that quote? He's like, we're on to Kansas City. We're on to Cincinnati. That's what he says. But we're on to the Houston Texans. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm trying to reference something.
I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah,
that's
go.
Okay. I'm just losing my mind live on there. 25 overall, we have the Houston Texans. They need wide receiver, O-line, and let's rephrase that. They need O-line. I don't really care that wide receivers in need. That doesn't describe the kind of need they need. They need double need at O-line. This thing is out of control. They trade Laramie Tunsil. I understand you want to change the culture in the locker room. I really get it. But C.J. Stroud already got killed last year. We need to address this in some way of form, please. Somehow, some way, we got to protect our quarterback because he looked promising year one, had a sophomore slump. How do we bolster that? We could give him a wide receiver. I don't think that changes anything. He's going to die if he doesn't get blocking. So with that being said, I think there's two guys, maybe three for me actually, that stick out on the board. Josh Simmons. Yes, he's hurt. The ACL is the real big kicker here. Will he be ready in time? If he is, I would go Josh Simmons. Tyler Booker, who the league, I hear, because I know league sources obviously, is really high on. People and teams love this player and what he can bring to their franchise. So a great player that would definitely shore up their O-line. And then Josh Connerly Jr., this guy can move extremely well, solid length as a tackle, and can be a legitimate starter in the NFL. These are my big three. I'm going to go one way here. But, of course, Metro, I want to hear your thoughts before I make a selection. I already have one in my mind, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Yes, so obviously the offensive line feels like a completely different unit now after Laramie Tunsil gets kicked out. It's
Shipped
really
off.
odd, too. They didn't feel like they kicked him out the door and spit on his name by calling him a cancer in the locker room. Didn't really like that. Anywho, they did bring in Cam Robinson, who I think is a good player, but only a one-year deal. They bring in Laken Tomlinson. I don't think he should be a starter, but he is capable of starting. 1 year, $4 million. And then Trent Brown, kind of the same thing. I think at this stage of his career, more of a swing tackle. He's 31, kind of feels like his best years are behind him at this point.
Yep.
You got Blake Fisher, you got Titus Howard. So I think the offensive line has some chances of being better than it was last year, but there's still issues. I mean, you're still starting Jarrett Patterson. You're still starting Juice Scruggs. You might have to start Laken Tomlinson and Trent Brown. Don't really love that. If I was in your spot, I would take Josh Simmons because of the Ohio State connection, and I just think he's a great player who,
Me too.
Unfortunately had an injury, torn ACL, which is going to suck and to come back from, especially when his game is kind of predicated on being an athletic freak.
Yep.
But if he can come back from it, I have no issue taking Josh Simmons and probably playing him at right tackle and moving Howard in to play left guard, something like that. Or who knows, maybe you feel confident about Trent Brown or Howard, and maybe you move Simmons to guard. I think he has flexibility. So, yeah, I have no issue with if you do take Josh Simmons or even Tyler Booker, who I like a lot, but I would go Josh Simmons here.
Totally, and that's where I lean to. It's just, it comes down to that ACL. Can it be healed in time? And if so, auto selection for Josh Simmons. And if not, let's play it safe and make sure our quarterback doesn't die and take Tyler Booker. Today, I have no skin in the game, so I'm not playing it safe. I'm going to take Josh Simmons right here to try to shore up that O-line.
All right, I got 26 with the LA Rams, a team that, man, they are looking really good for in basically every position. Unfortunately, their one need, like I want to say dire, but one of I guess their biggest needs is they need a cornerback one. Yeah. Because you have Darius Williams, you have Quentin Lake, Ahkello Witherspoon, Kobe Durant, good players. I don't know if they're cornerback one type of level guys. Unfortunately, obviously pick 26, Noble Johnson, no Jade Barron. So that leaves me kind of having to reach on a player here. And I think I'm going to go ahead and take Azariah Thomas. I think that's going to be my pick here. I love his length. I love his size. I think he can move his hips quite well for how big he is. I just think this team, really could use that length and size, who I think can play well in man. He's sticky in man coverage, especially in press. Like he's oddly really good. I mean, obviously with his size, I think it'd be a good fit there. I mean, yeah, you can go guard maybe, but this team is just it's really good. You couldn't even go inside linebacker, but I wouldn't say there's one available right now. So I feel like this might be a trade down spot, but I think I'm just going to stick with Azariah Thomas, who I think of the conversation for CB3, I think he's easily in the conversation. Him, Maxwell Hairston, Trey Amos, those are all guys I would consider there. But I think the size and physicality of Azariah Thomas makes him a bit more suitable for that cornerback 1 role.
Totally.
And he's young.
Oh, yeah, he's extremely young at 20 years old. I was actually eyeing this dude when you were like, he's saying cornerback. Is it going to go Thomas? Because I'm a big fan. So love that pick. 2 thumbs up from I don't have any NFL connections, but 2 thumbs up from me over here, the other content creator. 27, the Baltimore Ravens are on the clock. Guard, edge, DB. Here we are. We're taking the best player on the board. I don't really care what anyone else has to say. And to me, we're leaning best player on the board by a landslide is going to be Kenneth Grant here, in my humble opinion. But also, here's my question for you, Metro. Do we feel like Donovan is too light of a pass rusher to go to the Baltimore Ravens, who I think typically get bigger guys on the edge?
It's a good question. I would also lean towards best player available, which would, I think, be Kenneth Grant.
It would be.
I will say Kyle Van Noy is getting up there in age. 33 years old, coming off a 12.5 sack season. Mm-hmm. Can you rely on him for the next, 3 years to be that good? Probably not.
Yeah.
They're kind of in a similar spot to I'm sorry for saying so much. They're kind of in a similar spot for like the LA Rams, where they also could use a cornerback 1 as well. I mean, you have Marlon Humphrey, but you lose Brandon Stevens, which was already kind of a weak point for you last year. TJ Tampa, who I was okay with him potentially being a starter next year.
Yeah.
And then you have Nate Wiggins up opposite of him. I think I might consider a cornerback here as well. But if you do take, I think, a edge rusher, I would maybe consider Kenneth Grant or Micah Williams as well. So if it was me, I think I would take Micah.
What are your thoughts? I know they have Kyle Hamilton. Is there any room for Nick, even Worry, on that roster for the other?
I don't think so. I mean, unless you move Kyle Hamilton into more of a nickel role, which they could, by the way, and I think he'd be fantastic. And honestly, you can move Nick Imanwori into a nickel role. Hell,
yeah.
I think Nick Imanwori can play linebacker if you really want him to. I just think that might be a little bit too redundant of a pick there.
I get it.
Even though I think he's a good player. I just think with how the board is, I think there's players who fit the mold a bit more, like a Amos or Micah Williams, who, by the way, Micah Williams is still on the board, which 26 feels like he should be off by now, but at the same time, we also think that about Kenneth Grant. So it's hey, the board fell how the board fell.
Totally. And I would lean Kenneth Grant best overall player, but just based off, what am I saying? The Baltimore Ravens, every single time we think they go somewhere towards need, they typically lean towards best player available. At least in my eyes, they do. That's the kind of franchise they are. They have that luxury. So, not an exact need, but I am going to take Kenneth Grant right here. He's too damn good. 335 and moves at that weight. 339, extra 4 pounds. He moves at that weight so consistently. Active hands in the passing lanes. I mean, the potential on this guy, it's just a franchise-changing player to already add to your great NFL franchise. I like the upside in Kenneth Grant that I don't think anybody else provides here at 27 overall. So I'm going to lock him in, if that's cool with you, Metro.
No problems here. I like the pick a lot. Makes a lot of sense.
All right, bet, brother. Oh, you got my Lions. Take it away.
Man, if this is the board for the Lions, they are throwing a parade. I mean, Donovan Ezaraku, Micah Williams, Walter Nolan, Tyler Booker's on the board, like Derek Harmon, Darius. I mean, this is like, these guys aren't blue chip prospects, don't get me wrong, but man, these dudes are really good players. I think I'm going to take Micah Williams off the board here. I just think he's way too talented of a player. I like Donovan Ezaraku. I think he's probably a better pass rusher. But I think this is a Lions team that wants a more physical, more, obviously, bite the kneecap type of guy. I think that's a bit more like Micah Williams, more so than Donovan Ezaraku. Big size, can play opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, you're hoping Hutchinson comes back from that injury and is, his usual self. if he is that guy, if Hutchinson is back to his normal form, you have a go-to edge number one who can get you 15 sacks or 13, however many. And then Michael can develop his pass rushing skills, but be a really good run stuffer. I think he has potential to be a really good pass rusher. It just needs some development. But I think he has the size that really is what matters. It just needs the coaching from a really good coach, and I think the Lions have that coaching. So I'm going to take Michael Williams here and just not overthink it too much.
As a Lions fan, I would be juiced if we got Michael Williams all the way down here on the board. Here we go. Kami's on the board at 29. And they're in an interesting spot, man. They could lean running back. They could lean guard, corner, or edge.
Running back.
What'd you say?
Or running back.
Did I? I'm sorry, I'm deaf. I thought I said
Did
running
you?
back. Yeah.
Oh, you might have. I don't know.
I'm losing it, man. We're pick 29 in the draft. We've been live for an hour and 40. But yes, here is where I'm just going to have some fun, okay? Omarion Hampton, I know we talked about him earlier, Metro. And yes, maybe he's not my top 10 players overall, but brother, he is like in my top 15 range. Not getting drafted this high. I'm not stupid now, but I love him as a prospect. You talk about a big-bodied back. Big back, 220, 6'1". This guy can move. He is built like a truck, and he's pretty explosive and he's got good elusiveness as well. I just love what he brings. 1,200 yards after contact, 73 forced missed tackles. Just for reference, real quick, we talked about this earlier. 73 more forced missed tackles is 10th, a great stat. Back to Ashton Genty like we were talking about earlier. Where'd you go, Genty? Look at this stat. 152 is just outrageous. Enough for my side tangent. Genty's just an insane player. But back to our man, Omarion Hampton. Just everything you want an NFL running back. He's great in the receiving game as well. I like what he brings. He's a third down, first down, and second down back, a bell cow for your franchise. And above all, guys, you want to sell some jerseys, you got Jaden Daniels. You got Omarion Hampton. Talk about a fearsome duo heading into the playoffs next year. I'm going to lock him in here. Metro, what do you think about Omarion Hampton?
Yeah, I think I'd lean Hampton too. The only player I would consider would be Donovan Ezeraku because this team could really use another pass rusher.
Yep.
But you bring in Dietrich Wise, you got Frankie Louvu, Dorrance Armstrong. It's unfortunate you couldn't bring back, what's his name? The guy from the Cowboys. Fowler, Dante Fowler. It's a shame they couldn't bring back Dante Fowler because he was a really good fit for them. But you bring in Laramie Tunsil, you fix up that offensive line to kind of, feel a bit more complete now that you have that true alpha left tackle there. Brandon Coleman could probably play guard over Nick Allegretti if you want him to. I think I would take Omarion Hampton as well. I just think at this stage, I'm not a huge Brian Robinson fan. I know Washington fans seem to be okay with Brian Robinson being their guy, but he never has blown me away. Then you have Austin Eckler, who at this stage of his career, not much of a running back, more of a receiving threat.
Yeah.
I just think Omarion Hampton could be that every down guy who I think Brian Robinson would still have a role with, especially along goal line packages and whatnot.
Sure.
Just think Omarion Hampton would make a lot of sense. I even would maybe consider Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson for more of a speed element. Maybe not Quinshon, but Travion. But Omarion Hampton he's fantastic. So I would go Omarion Hampton here. And man, Jaden Daniels and Hampton is just going to put nightmares in. And Deebo Samuel with his threats and everything that he can do. I just stop.
You talk about like a fantasy roster's wet dream, man. Omarion Hampton is so damn good.
I love the pick. That puts me at 30 with the Buffalo Bills. They could really use a true. I mean, you bring in Larry Ogunjobi, but dude got suspended for 6 games, which was crazy. This team could really use just another true pass rusher, somebody who can just consistently get to the quarterback, or a big dude up the middle who can stuff the run. Kind of have two options here between Derek Harmon and Donovan Ezeraku. The question is, who do I think is better? I don't know. They're kind of both in the same ballpark, quite frankly. This was a team that expected a lot out of Von Miller, but it just didn't quite ever come to fruition. I think Donovan Ezeraku could kind of be that guy who does play the more Von Miller pass rusher-like role, who can get, 8 to 9 to 10 sacks a season. Again, you want to get to Mahomes. That was the one way the Eagles were able to beat him, by just destroying him in the pocket.
That's right.
The Chiefs' offensive line didn't get significantly better. If anything, it got worse. So I think I might lean Donovan Ezeraku because I feel okay with what they've done in terms of bringing in Larry Ogunjobi and some other pieces. So, and you could probably take a round 2 interior defensive lineman like an Alfred Collins who can just be a total run stuffer up the middle. So I'm going to take Donovan Ezaraku for what his pass rushing upside could be.
Totally. And then just to hammer down on what you were saying, 14 sacks, 20 hits, and 26 hurries. You talk about a force in the pass rush. This is how you get to the Super Bowl, Buffalo. This is how you do it. Just like you mentioned, it's how the Eagles beat them. It's how you could do it as well and exploit their weaknesses. I love the pick in Donovan.
Yep. One thing I want to say, go back to Ezaraku's stats real quick.
You got it, man.
26 hurries. Do you remember how many Nick Scowerton had? He had 28.
Yeah,
and
right.
yet he had 10 less sacks. It's kind of weird how that works out.
I hear you, brother.
Maybe Nick Scowerton needs to go, hit up Donovan Ezaraku to finish, to learn how to take down the quarterback. Not just get to him, but take him down.
It's time to learn a thing or two from Donovan, man. He is a master of his craft.
For sure. Yeah, I
All
think it'd
right.
be a good fit for them.
Oh, dude, totally. They absolutely need it. 31, the Chiefs, the runner-ups. Weird to say that. The runner-ups are on the clock. Well, we could say D-line. For me, yes, I think Walter Nolan's an awesome prospect. I have him a little bit higher than Derek Harmon, not just because he's on PFF's board, but also I think Walter Nolan's a freak athlete. But this O-line, man, you have arguably, I'm not going to call him the baby goat, but he's got potential to get there someday if he keeps playing at a super high rate, and we all know that's true. We got to protect. I put click quarterback like I'm going to draft quarterback. We got to protect this man, and Tyler Booker is an absolute need. Trust me, I'm looking at tackle. I didn't know Josh Connolly was on the board. This could be the move. Tackle is more valuable than guard. I would
take Tyler Booker.
I think Booker's a higher rate hit. Don't get me wrong, but Josh Connolly is the roll the dice tackle player you could get and protect your blind side for your quarterback.
I just look at Booker, and I just look at him and I just say, that dude could be exactly like Trey Smith.
Yeah.
Just a mauler up the middle, big, strong physical, puts his hands on you, you're not moving. They brought in Jalen Moore, and they have Jawan Taylor, which I think tackle would still be a need, especially because Moore is a huge question mark. Mike Caliendo could play guard. Also, Kingsley could play guard. I would lean towards Booker because I just see Trey Smith kind of written all over him. Not saying he'll be anything close to Trey Smith because Trey Smith is, one of the best guards, but he could be close. So, but
Totally.
Connolly is interesting too. He is very interesting. So, I don't know. It's up to you.
It's where you want to lean. It's where you want to roll the dice a little bit, right? I'm not saying Connolly's a risk, but he's definitely more risky than Tyler Booker. And truly, it's the draft, so everything's a risk. But I do feel safer about Tyler Booker, like you said. You know what you're getting. The league is really high on this player. He's young. I heard stories about when he was at camp in high school, and he was taking on the best players in one-on-ones nonstop and running it back and back again, even if he was losing. He's got that kind of dog in him, and he's just the kind of player you want on your team, giving locker room speeches. Just a home run hit of a player right here. I think Tyler Booker fits best for the Chiefs, and we know he's going to protect their quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to take him right here at 31.
All right, so I get the honors of ending the draft with the Super Bowl champion and the Philadelphia Eagles, who surprisingly have had a quiet offseason so far, really not doing too much. I guess makes sense. You don't really have the money to. You've kind of spent it all at this point. But you lost out on some really good players. Darius Slay they had to get rid of. Mekhi Becton you had to get rid of. But you're able to bring back Zach Bond. You were able to bring back who else did they bring back? Some other players. They brought back. I'm blanking right now. Re-signed Saquon Barkley. Yeah, they've had a really good offseason so far in terms of retaining certain players, but they've also lost like Josh Sweat. That's a huge loss. Milton Williams. That's a huge loss. So kind of a tough offseason for them in terms of they also brought in Azeez Ojulari, Joshua Uche. So Nolan Smith, you're hoping could take a big step forward. Sort of been a weird offseason for the Chiefs or for the Eagles. With that said, there are some really good players on the board, and I just think that they should probably just go what they typically do, which is best player available in positions of need. And I think depth in the interior of the defensive line is a position of need. So that puts me with Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, and Darius Alexander. And I think I'm going to lean towards those guys should be first-round locks. Yeah. But defensive interiors just doesn't feel like it's a need for a lot of these teams, so they're going to fall kind of naturally. But I'm going to take the best Milton Williams replacement. I think I'm going to lean towards Darius Alexander, but I also look at Walter Nolan, and I think that he could easily be that guy. I think, how old is Darius Alexander? I think he's a little bit older. I want to say he's like.
He's older. He's going to be no age. That's why I know he's older. I
Well,
also
it
know
says
he's older too.
he'll be
25
25 in
rookie.
his rookie season. Man, but this is an Eagles team that can try to go for a championship now, so
It's
it makes
true.
sense.
It does.
I guess because of the age. I don't know. Walter Nolan kind of reminds me of Jordan Davis in some way, or not Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter in some ways. Not saying he's going to be anything close to Jalen Carter, but I also do think, okay, not that Carter has any character issues anymore. Obviously, that was more of a Georgia thing, but Walter Nolan has some really big character issues. Well, isn't that funny? Shades of Milton Williams. All right,
I saw that too, bro.
All right, make the pick. That's literally exactly my whole goal here. PFF knows it, so I'm a little concerned about some of the character issues I heard about, especially putting him in a locker near Jalen Carter. But if we assume Carter, has learned a thing or two from, Fletcher and Cox and all those Fletcher Cox and those guys, so I'm gonna go Walter Nolan. I think he'll be all right. So that's going to complete.
I just love that the shades of just had him sitting right there. And I was
know.
like, I hope he sees this, bro, because it's just too good to be true.
It's just too perfect right there.
All right, here we go.
right.
I'm going to review our pick from 1 to 32. Here's our full mock draft. Deep breath in. Here we go. At number 1 overall, we took Cam Ward. At 2, we took Travis Hunter, the two-way player. 3, we took a little flyer in Armand Membo. And then 4, we got Abdul Carter. 5, Mason Graham. Ashton Genty at 6, Kelvin Banks at 7, Tetro McMillan at 8, Mike Green at 9, Shamar Stewart at 10, something different for Bears fans, Will Campbell all the way down to 11, Jahdae Barron at 12 to the Cowboys, Will Johnson to the Dolphins at 13, Tyler Warren at 14, Jalen Walker at 15, Luther Burden at 16 to pair up with Marvin Harrison Jr., 17, we got Nick Scourton, Gray Zabel at 18, Jahad Campbell at 19, Matthew Golden at 20 to the Broncos, and then Shador Sanders slides all the way down to 21, where he will be taken by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Colson Loveland goes to 22, James Pierce Jr. at 23, Malachi Starks to the Vikings at 24, Josh Simmons to the Texans at 25, Thomas at 26 to the Rams, Kenneth Grant slides all the way down to 27 to the Baltimore Ravens, Mykel Williams is a Detroit Lion at 28. Omarion Hampton is looking like a fierce running back bell cow in Washington at 29. Donovan Ezraku at 30. Tyler Booker at 31. And then last but not least, another stud defensive player for the Eagles at 32 in Walter Nolan. Guys, thank you for joining us on this mock draft today. This is our very first episode ever. So go leave a like down below. It helps us out a bunch. Thank you very much. What would you change? What did you like about this draft? What did you not like? What picks would you change throughout this entire process? Go comment down below. What episodes do you want to see from us? Because, guys, we're a young channel, and we'll make whatever y'all want. We love the NFL draft, and we love the NFL landscape of football. So go comment below what episodes we should try out. What ideas do you have that you would like to see from us to me and Metro? Also, more importantly, go check out Metro's channel in the description below. Go check out mine as well. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you more than you know. This is me and Metro signing off. Metro, say goodbye to the nice people.
Adios, amigos.
Have a nice day, guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.